I'll put in slate.
That's right, exactly.
Township Board of
Okay.
Trustees.
Call to order. Plymouth Township Board of Trustees meeting, regular meeting, Tuesday, May 27, 6:32 PM. Call to order. Roll call. Ready for roll call?
Roll call. Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Trustee Clinton.
Here.
Supervisor Kermy.
Here.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Here.
Trustee Groth.
Here.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Clerk Vorba here. All present. We have a quorum.
All right. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So approval of the agenda for May 27, 2025?
We had a recognition there.
Oh, that's right. Well, we want to do the,
Recognition first.
yes. We're going to recognize a company that is located and headquartered in Plymouth, Link Engineering, for 90 years of being in business, started in Detroit and moved their headquarters here in 2019, but they've been operating an engineering and build activity before that. So Link Engineering, I think, may have a representative or two here. And I have a proclamation to present to them. And who is going, is Matt going to take it? All right. So if you got, do you have somebody here that you want to take, will take pictures or? All right. So I'll come around here and if you want, you can say a few words afterwards, a few words. This company is involved in the auto industry and other industries making test equipment, which is used in engineering certification and manufacturing. So thank you, congratulations for being here. We're glad that you're the kind of company we want in Plymouth, employ in skilled trades and in engineering and testing. So how do you want to let's pose this if you want. You want to put your hand on it or take it?
Thank you.
Got it? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I got the memo. I'll try to keep it short here. But, you know, we just take a lot of pride in, so it was my grandfather in 1935 who, he actually came over in 1926 from just outside of Stuttgart, Germany. And it was in 1935 that he started the business in his basement. And it was actually in 1991 we moved into Plymouth Township with our design and engineering manufacturing activities. So we've been in the Plymouth Township. It was actually, so 2019 we extended our corporate presence with additional offices. We are a very global company these days. We support all of the automotive manufacturers and their supply base in advancing their technologies. We've got facilities in Germany, Italy, China, Japan, Brazil, around the world. But really our headquarters in the design, manufacturing, and the key aspects that was stated there, the skilled trades, the engineering is really well represented here. So we appreciate all the support of the community, the ability for our people, the talent we're able to get. It's pretty impressive when we bring our customers into the township, and it's just really appreciate the partnership and all the support through the years, so thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, the gentleman seated to your right is?
Yeah, good point. It's my father, Roy Link.
Your father, a Michigan State graduate in engineering, and he's been with the company for?
Ever.
How many years? And you've been with the company how many years? Thank you very much. Thank you.
through a lot of great things, and as Matt mentioned, we really appreciate Plymouth being our home.
Well, I appreciate
Around
too.
the world, we visit people, that we have people coming in here from everywhere in the world. And,
Wonderful.
I appreciate Supervisor Kerming giving notice to you because we want to support and shine a spotlight on such a positive business. And we appreciate you being here in Plymouth Township.
Thank you so much. We've got 4 years to go.
So item C, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, May 27th, 2025.
Second.
Second by Clinton. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, and there's 2 resolutions in there, so we'll need a roll call on that.
You calling the roll, or we
Yeah.
need a second?
We need a second first.
All right.
Second by Growth. Okay, Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Stewart?
Yes?
Trustee Growth?
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Kermy?
Yes.
Trustee Clinton?
Yes.
Trustee Buckley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. So tonight, we only have 1 new business item, or no, 2. We have treasurer's report and another one on water. So treasurer's report will go next.
You want to do public comments?
Yeah, God, I'm not paying attention to that, am I? Yes, public comments are allowed on non-agenda items now. You have 3 minutes. If you're going to talk about sewer or the treasurer's report, you can't speak on that now. You need to wait till the agenda item comes. It's kind of an unusual privilege in a township meeting that you get to speak on the agenda item. So any non-agenda item comments? Going, gone, all right.
I'm so excited about there's so many people here for the treasure. This is gonna be great.
Right. Oh, all right. By the way, he's signing in there if we have a lot of people speaking, sign in before you speak, so that way it moves things along.
So good evening, board members. I'm going to assume this is going to be a non-agenda item because it's sort of old business. After attending most of the meetings of the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees over the last couple of years, listening to and commenting on the Meyer Store site, the Northville Downs Plymouth, and now we're looking at the Salem Springs sewage treatment issue. And based on the previous administration's transparency on many of these issues, I'm working on my calendar for the year 25 and 26 to see what the future meetings will bear fruit for. So I'd like to ask a rhetorical question. How many of the so-called community benefit deals negotiated by Mr. Heitman and fostered by the last township administration are there still unresolved? Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? All right, we'll go to the treasurer's report, which is a discussion presentation item. We won't be voting on it.
Okay, this is some exciting stuff. One of the things that is recommended that I do as a treasurer is to do an annual report, which I'm doing annually. So I'll talk about the major activities, payments and disbursements, savings and investments, personal property. I got a little bit about pension and OPEB, but we're going to mainly cover that during the audit presentation in June. Debt service and some of the stuff looking forward. So this is a list of the services provided by the Treasury. In the treasurer's office, we have two full-time employees, myself and Jim Beely, who's the deputy treasurer, has been since November. Claudia, Carrie, and Rita are all part-time. They're the ones that work at the desk. I just want to give a shout out to this group. It's a small team, but it is a really good team. No drama. Everybody just does their job, and they greet people when the public comes in for services from the Treasury. They are always pleasant and greet the public and do what they can to help people solve their problems. So this is basically what the services that we provide. In 2024, we processed 67,206 payments. It covered about 50 categories of payments, totaled about $110 million, of which 88 million of that was in taxes. Disbursements. So what happens at the local level is the Treasury collects the taxes, as you know, and then twice a month during tax season provides disbursements to the taxing authorities, which includes Wayne County, some internal brownfields, the library, Plymouth Canton Schools, Schoolcraft College, and some other special captures. So we do monthly and annual settlements with the county, calculate, print, and mail the tax bills, the reminders, the duplicates, do the check runs and the payroll and the MERS contributions, provide files to mortgage companies, do daily deposits, delinquent water bills, animal licensing, bankruptcy claim, and so on. And you can read the rest of the list because I'm getting tired. Payments and collections, the most common, there's about 75 categories of things that we receive payments for, from state shared revenue, payments from grants. About 79% of the payments we receive are for property tax, and about 12% are for water bills, and then the rest is distributed across those other functions. The payment options are in person, 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, by mail, by the drop box out in front of the building, or you can pay online electronically. We take check, cash, ACH payment for water. If you're not enrolled in the ACH program, we encourage you to do that because your water bill is never late, and we take out the withdrawal out of the bank account on the due date, not a day before. So you get to hang on to your money right up to the last minute. There's credit card payments. There's a 3% fee, which is charged by the credit card company. We don't get any of that. Or you can pay by electronic check. So in summer of 2024, that should say summer and winter, about 98.3% of all the parcels paid on time, totaling 99% of the taxes. So we only had, out of over 12,000 parcels, we only had 215 that were delinquent summer or winter. Of those payments, about 95 million are cash or checks. About 11 million online, and about 4 million comes in wire transfers, and the wire transfers come from state payments or federal payments. So what happens on March 1st, anything that is delinquent is turned over to Wayne County for collected on the real property, not on personal property, and Wayne County is responsible for collecting it going forward. So we can't take any payments after March 1st. They all have to go to the county.
While you're on that page, the wire transfers are predominantly from mortgage companies?
No, wire transfers are from things like state shared revenue, grants, drug forfeiture money. The mortgage companies pay us, send checks. So this is an eye chart, but what it's illustrating here is that this particular function follows a cadence, and it's a 12-month wash, rinse, repeat cycle. In each of those 12 months, there's certain activities, filings that have to be done, major milestones or deliverables, and it repeats itself every year. So, for example, with June coming up, we're preparing the summer tax bills, create the water and sewer rates for the next year, do some filing with the state, and set the deadline for affidavits that are due for the homestead exemptions. But these are all the things we do, and some of these things are once a year. A particular filing with the state might be due in September, and we do that once a year. So I'm not going to go through all these. I think the point is made. So some fun facts. As my dad liked to say, what did you do with the money I gave you last week? So where your local taxes go is primarily for education. So for every $100 in residential taxes that are paid, if you could include K through 12 education, Schoolcraft College, and Plymouth Canton schools, about 50% of the taxes that you pay go to pay for education. We received 22,000 tax payments last year. There's about 12,000 parcels, so 12,000 times two tax seasons for about $88 million. And of that, in addition to that, we had about 355 water bills that were not paid by the deadline. So what happens with water bills is that on November 1st, anything that is 6 months old and not paid gets a 35% penalty on it, and then it goes on the taxes. And we had about 355 of those last year. That's up slightly from the year before, but that tends to be a pretty regular flat number if you look over the years. So we get what happens on February 15th, 14th is the last day that you can pay summer and winter taxes without an additional penalty. So a lot of people do forget, or for whatever reason, they don't pay by that deadline. So we'll send out a reminder. We basically push the button first thing in the morning the next day and mail out reminders. And that tends to be pretty fruitful. We collected about $1 million, almost $1 million, by sending those reminders in the last 2 weeks of February. I'm sorry, that's the September one, same concept.
So before you go away, I have a question from this page. Is the K-12 bar chart there including the debt levy of 4.5 mils or so?
Yeah,
for Plymouth Canton schools?
That's everything. So that's Plymouth Canton schools plus the state education tax that's collected by Wayne County. Wayne County is the second biggest, and then our township, our taxes for the police and fire millage cover, and we'll cover that in the audit. They generate about $8.5 million out of 12 million that it costs us for public safety. But you can see over in this chart, this is a distribution of where those taxes go. So this is where the money is spent. Police and fire, general government, and then it drops off considerably from there. So one of the takeaways from this slide is police and fire combined and dispatch consume about 65% of our budget. So there's not a lot of discretionary spend. 70% of what we spend is for people cost, and we're a pretty lean operation. So there's not a lot of, there's just not a lot of discretionary monies that we spend. On the savings and investment side, we have depositories. We keep our money, what we try to do is balance it out so that there's, we're not tied into one institution for diversity and risk management purposes. We work with Flagstar, Bank of Ann Arbor, Comerica, Community Financial Credit Union, and an organization called My Class, which is it's an investment vehicle that is made up of municipalities across the state, and it invests primarily in lower risk commercial paper, so it yields better than these savings accounts that these other institutions would. We also have, we're not active with Bank of America, Chase, or PNC, but those are actually listed as depositories. MERS is our pension program. So our pension, defined benefit pension, which is primarily police and fire, is in an instrument called MERS, which is a state-run investment vehicle. So there's other investments. What we do is we have at Flagstar and Bank of Ann Arbor and Comerica, I try to keep those relatively balanced. We have our investments in instruments called CDARS and ICS, which are, if you have a, deposits are only insured up to $250,000 per institution. So there's a method that by which you can diversify CD investments and savings investments called CDARS and ICS. So without going into too much detail, what it does is, let's say we have $5 million at Bank of Ann Arbor, the majority of that money will be in these instruments that actually are deposited in other institutions around the country, and that's a means by which you can protect your investment if there's a bank failure. So the key with municipal finance is that you want to balance liquidity, yield, and risk. You want your assets to be, liquid, to have the liquidity you need to get through the year, because the cash flow is pretty predictable. Our deposits are high at the beginning of the calendar year because of winter taxes, and we deplete that as the year goes on. But you want to maximize your yield, but you don't want to gamble with public money. So that's the key, is that those three points on the triangle, balancing liquidity, yield, and risk. My Class, which I mentioned, this is how it performed last year. So this is liquid assets. These are like a savings account. We can move money in and out every day if we want. And it did 5.25% last year with very low risk. So that was a pretty good yield. A couple things to talk about, and we're going to cover this in the audit, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. I'm just going to mention it here. We have two long-term liability accounts to worry about. One is called OPEB, which means other post-employment benefits. It's basically retiree health care. And we were funded, for historical reasons, communities all over the state never saved anything for OPEB. And about 10 years ago, that started to change. When Mark was treasurer, we started funding our OPEB, and we're up to 37%, which is 5 years ago, we were under 7%. So we're funding that, the post-retirement healthcare, so that we're not passing that debt on to the next generation. And we think that's the responsible thing to do, so we purposefully are paying down that liability every year. The funded ratio for our retirement funding, it's always a year behind, and the actuarial data isn't out yet. I was hoping it would be out by today, but it's still not out, so it should be in the next week or two. But again, that'll be covered in the June meeting when the auditors present. That pension funding, we're closing the gap. So we started in 2016 with a significant gap between funding and liability, and we're closing that every year. Personal property, which is the equipment, is taxed at the same rate as real property. Basically, you have a business and you have machinery, you have a restaurant, and you have equipment. You can get an exemption of up to $180,000 of net book value of that equipment can get exempted from personal property tax. But business owners gotta file the forms, and I get calls all the time, and I feel bad for them. They didn't file the form, and the state is very rigid about if the forms aren't filed on time. We can't forgive them from that personal property tax, even though they may have been exempt if they did file the forms. So that one of the things that we've been doing is we've been chasing down personal property taxes that have not been paid over the years, and we're eating away at that. We send out reminders, and we have the right to seize property, but I haven't had to go to that extreme yet. Usually a few phone calls and people will pay. These are our top 15 taxpayers in the township. So the next time you want to swear at DTE, remember that they're our top taxpayer in the township. But the top taxpayers are DTE, Bosch, Pulte, Consumers Energy, Amazon, ADN, and Prime Real Estate, Robert Bosch, and D Group Limited Partnership, and Comcast are the top 10. So,
What percent of St. John's Resort is on the tax roll?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'd have to go look it up. Some debt service. We have very little debt. We had an installment purchase agreement and some bonds paid off in 2024. So this township hall will be paid off this year. And that leaves us with, very little debt. We'll have about $1.6 million in debt. So we're, extremely healthy, relative to debt to our fund balances. This tax refunding bond, that's just a name for refunding in the municipal sector, means refinancing. So there were some bonds, and in 2017, because of favorable rates, we refinanced those. And those were the those were the ones for the park, money borrowed for the park, right? You remember 2017 refinancing?
Yes. Yep.
The pavilion on the hill.
Yeah, the pavilion on the hill. Last, and so I will move on to the next topic. So these are some frequently asked questions. There's no senior discount on taxes in Michigan. If there were, probably 2/3 of our residents would get discounts, but we get a lot of calls on that. People, I don't know, I think it comes from AARP because some states have senior discounts, but that's not a thing here. Taxes have to be received by the due date. I encourage people, summer taxes are technically due July 1st, but you have until September 14th, a 75-day grace period, and I encourage people to not put them in the mail if it's getting close to the due date, because last week we got a piece of mail that was postmarked October 14th of 2022. 2.5 years, it was floating around somewhere. But you can always call us, you can look online. If you go to the township website, there's a link that takes you online. All taxes are public information, so you can look up your neighbor's taxes if you want. But you can look up and see if you paid, if your check has been received. You can call us, we're happy to help, and I guess that's about it. So just looking ahead, we're improving some of our process documentation. I still want to continue to chase the personal property collections and get that cleaned up. And it's a good question as to whether interest rates are going to fall. We've been doing, as I had said on a previous slide, this was the interest that we made in 23, 24, and year to date in 25, and it was significant. So the question is what those rates are going to look like over the next 18 months, and none of us have a crystal ball.
That rolling 12, how is that calculated?
By adding up 12 months.
So 12 months at that rate?
12 months. So over the past 12 months, we did 1.9 million.
Okay, 12 months back from April of 2025 back
Right.
to April of 2024.
Correct. Any questions?
Did a good job on that, Bob.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Good? No questions from the audience?
We don't give away free samples.
Someone's raising
I
their.
would like to make one general comment, if I may,
Yeah.
please.
You have someone
Well-
way back there.
Well, he has a general comment, go ahead, and then we'll take this person over here.
No, go ahead with
Well,
the citizen first.
you need to come to the podium so people can hear what you're saying.
Is this on the treasurer's presentation?
Well, we'll see, that's the instruction.
I should be, okay. Hi. Question, you said that we're in a healthy position, it sounds like, in the city in terms of money, and that we've got only $1 million left to raise, I guess. So my question is, we're so close, so then what happens when we get that magic number? Where will the money be going to or toward? What are you gonna fund for the city?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay. Maybe I didn't understand what you were saying. I thought you said we were $1 million short of paying off the debt?
About
Is that
$1.5 million,
true?
yeah.
Okay, so once we finish that, I mean, it sounds like we'd be able to do that in 2025, correct?
The township hall would be paid off this
Yeah,
year.
we make the last payment on this township hall this
Okay,
year,
okay.
which is about 500 grand.
Okay, so then that allows us to do, with the funds coming in and we don't have to pay that debt anymore, where will the money be used? What do you plan on using the money for?
We'll determine that in the budget,
Yeah.
so hopefully it will be used to fund mostly fire and police,
Okay,
because they use up most of our budget. Also, we could think of getting rid of the tax administration fee, which makes people's hair raise up if you're inside the township hall, because nobody who gets their paycheck from the government wants a tax cut.
okay. All right, thanks.
All right. Next item is, what we're going to do here is try something different. This is not an official public hearing, but some people have, oh, you have something to say.
Please. Thank you, Treasurer Dorshevitz. If you turn your attention to page 7 or page 51 of 79 and our top taxpayers, rhetorical question. What was the reported profit of the Bosch Corporation 2 years ago?
I'm sorry, I don't
It
understand.
was north of $42 billion. What did they contribute to the community and the people of Plymouth Township?
They give us grants. They
Okay, here's my point.
just gave us a $7,500 grant to
I'm
be used in
grateful
the
for
park.
that. I'm grateful for that. I was under a false impression a few years ago, and I apologize to Dwayne Zantoff. We had an economic development director who I thought would welcome and honor businesses in Plymouth Township to contribute to the well-being, athletics, and the arts. You know, I was born and raised in Wyandotte, and we had all, Wyandotte Chemicals was sponsoring anything and everything. BASF. We need to find, I would be willing to, I'm not being facetious, I would be willing to support hiring a replacement for the position of economic development. If you can go out and find another competent person like Sheila Acker, her twin, to help welcome businesses and economic development and get them to contribute to community things. Maybe they could even fund a free day for all Plymouth Township residents at Three Cedars Farm. I don't see, now, you have, without a doubt, cuts coming from the federal government and cuts coming from the state government. A week and a half ago, I was on the appropriations committee for the state budget for 6 years. Revenues are down. We have to anticipate some cuts from the state. And with this economy, we have to anticipate some cuts from the feds. But my source is going to be private corporations voluntarily contributing to community welfare. And my definition of community welfare is athletics and the arts. I played on a baseball team for 8 years, supported by the Wyandotte firefighters and police. So, I mean, I want to engender, nurture, and support someone. And if in the future, I know you're very cautious and reluctant, Mr. Supervisor, but if we have a replacement for the Economic Development Director, we need to have someone who will genuinely go to these businesses. Let me put on record one more time. 2 years ago, the Robert Bosch Corporation reported a profit of more than $42 billion, that's B, dollars. They have a shop right up Haggerty Road. We have not had someone, a township employee, work with, welcome our corporate businesses and our small, independent, self-employment businesses. So I would like you to think about that, that's all.
I have two points. I think Bosch's revenue was 42 billion. I don't think their profit was. We need to check that. And second is the profits from the Bosch Corporation or Bosch go to a charitable foundation in Germany. All right.
But the vice president per tem happens to attend church with me at First Presbyterian, the 190-year-old church of this area.
All right. All set, John? John, all set? All right. So we're going to move on to two items that are really related. It is Salem Township, which is the township west of here. And they have a project that was started called Urban Services District. Started in the 1990s, so a pretty long time ago. And they currently have water service from the Great Lakes Water Authority. And they're seeking sewer or sewage treatment plant, some type of system for their sewage to develop 500 to 1,000 homes over the next 20 years in the area around Napier, M14, Carl's Cabin, Godfredson. So this has been talked about a lot in the last 10 years. We've looked at, or they've looked at connecting to Watua, our 3 townships sewage treatment plant. They have looked at a pipeline, which we're talking about tonight, and they've looked at the independently run sewage treatment plant. So lots of alternatives. And then the last few years, they've received $35 million from the state of Michigan in a grant to develop sewer and water and infrastructure. So we're here today, and we're going to break it up into two things. There's a resolution here that we would like to vote on after we hear what you have to say, which will give our disagreement or opposition to a sewage treatment plant, which is a standalone, which would be, Bob, I don't know if you've got the map on the jump drive or at the corner of, nominally, at the corner of M14 and Napier Road, right near the township of Plymouth border. And then the other one is to vote on whether we should have a pipeline go through about 1.5 miles of Plymouth Township along Ann Arbor Road, tentatively on the north side, down to Joy Road on the north side, because there are pipelines on the south side, although some more engineering evaluation could move it to the Canton side, and then it would be a moot point, wouldn't be passing through Plymouth Township. So tonight, we're going to let everybody speak. I urge you, don't take the 3 minutes if you don't need it. And you can only come up once. Try to be succinct and to the point. We all know that on April 4th of 2024, there was 700 to 800 people at Northridge Church that said every possible thing you could imagine about the sewage treatment plant. We're going to start off with our elected officials. I see Senator Rosemary Bear here, and I see Phil Argeroff from Great Lake, the Eagle Environmental Great Lakes and Energy, which is a state agency, maybe used to be called DEQ years ago. They are going to issue the permit. They say they're ready. It meets all of the legal guidelines, and they are essentially, he'll tell you, required to issue a permit if it meets all of the environmental and legal guidelines in the law. So I don't know if I've forgotten anything. Any board members have anything they want to add right now in a short fashion before we bring up, also Stantec is here, which is the engineering company that Salem Township has hired to either design a sewage treatment plant or a pipeline. We also have Spalding to Decker, which is the township's consulting engineer. Jeremy Schroet, the vice president of that company, that can answer some questions. The route is nominally Ridge Road, once it moves out of Plymouth Township, south to Michigan Avenue through Canton, and then west along Michigan Avenue to the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority, which is where Canton, Northville, and Plymouth sewage is piped to today. We do not pipe our sewer since about 2017 to the city of, what was the city of Detroit, now Great Lakes Water Authority. So John, a short one?
If we want to get to the positive and possible positive motion for a pipeline, would you entertain a motion to oppose the construction of a wastewater treatment facility?
Yeah, we're gonna let the people talk first, and then
Is there anyone in support of that?
well,
Eagle, I'd like to
yeah,
hear
but we
from
wanna
Eagle.
hear what Eagle has to say. Let's do that. All right, who wants to go first? Eagle or Senator Rosemary Bear or Stantec? I don't think they're going to be talking unless we have questions. We also have the supervisor of Salem Township here to answer questions if we need them. It's Gary Whitaker.
Well, okay, Mr. Supervisor, if you would let the people know, we have a motion in our packet for opposition to a wastewater treatment plan that we must vote on. And then we have a motion later on, if we so choose, to approve a motion to
Yes,
connect.
John. Let's let them go first, and then we can
Okay.
bring the motions up.
Well, thanks very much. It's a great privilege to be here tonight. I'm Phil Argeroff. I'm the Assistant Director of Water Resources Division at Eagle, and I appreciate this opportunity. I really want to talk about our strong preference for the sewer alternative, and we appreciate that it's still under consideration. If this alternative is not supported, however, we are prepared to issue the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System discharge permit for the Salem USD wastewater treatment plant. This is not our preference. We had that public hearing last year, and it was really well attended. We appreciate the opportunity to hear from everyone. Since that time, we've developed a responsiveness summary on all the comments. We've asked Salem Township as well for getting a resource permit to address any impacts that could happen to the wetlands. We also had our hydrologic studies unit address any flooding issues downstream, and they believe it's a relatively insignificant source. Given all this information, however, we still continue to believe that the sewer alternative is a better alternative than a wastewater treatment plant, and we're here to support that. In fact, we're required to consider, under our state Clean Water Act, which is analogous to the federal Clean Water Act, an anti-degradation provision. And this provision tells us if there's a sewer alternative to existing infrastructure, in this case, Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority, it's the preferred alternative. So from a regional perspective, it's preferred. From an environmental perspective, it's preferred. From a compliance standpoint, to operate a regional wastewater treatment plant, it's the preferred option. From the standpoint of minimizing impacts to waters of the state, our regional solution is the preference. Any discharge from a new wastewater treatment plant will cause lowering of water quality, though it's required to meet our water quality standards. So those are our regulations. We are able to issue this permit, but our preference certainly is not to issue the permit. So we're holding off on it because we really think that this is a viable alternative to move forward with a regional solution and a sewer solution. So there's several off-ramps to this, and some of those will include if one of the townships decides to say no, that will be an off-ramp. That will allow us then to issue the permit. Other things that could happen is if there was an ineffective design for the project, and we'd be reviewing the design of the project as well. So for the reasons stated above, our Water Resources Division strongly supports the connection of the Salem USD to the Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority with the sewer project. Thanks for the opportunity.
Question?
Are you going to stay here for questions for a while?
Yeah, for sure, yep, here to answer any questions. Yeah.
So the board can ask questions now.
Yeah, I have, I
Yeah,
got a
yes,
couple
sir.
of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we're in receipt of a letter from Warren Evans, county executive. Have you seen that?
You know, I don't know if I've seen the letter.
So he says in it that you had indicated that you're prepared to issue the permit, but it's your job to protect the waterways, right? So Warren Evans says in his letter, he stopped short of suggesting that it would be an environmental disaster to approve this wastewater treatment plant. And he cites three things in this letter that are up on the screen. Increased flood risk to Wayne County, and he says that Fellows Creek Drain would have to be improved to the tune of 10 to 20 million dollars, which would then be passed on to the residents and property owners that are in the watershed of Fellows Creek. He says it would impact the water quality of the receiving waters and cause downstream pollutants is the second point. And his third point is that he says that it would increase drain maintenance for the residents, the Wayne County landowners, and would receive assessments. So this is basically saying you would blow out Fellows Creek drain, $10 to $20 million to improve it, that you would create downstream pollution, and that you would cause additional costs to the Wayne County landowners that are in the zone that is serviced by that drain. Is he wrong?
So let me tell you first, our preference is not to have the wastewater treatment plant constructed. We've held off on issuance of that wastewater treatment plant permit for over a year because we want the sewer alternative to happen. So I want to preface your comments by saying this. But we did have our hydrologic studies unit look at it. We'll certainly look at his letter. But our hydrologic studies unit looked at it and said there's a decreasing impact from the 840,000 gallons as you proceed to higher risk storm events. And it could be less than 1% impact on the higher storm events, so like a 1% storm risk. So I will take a look at that, certainly, but we are prepared to say that if it comes down to it, we believe that we could issue that permit. Now, in terms of water quality, those are the limits that are specified in the permit. They're protective and they meet our water quality standards. But like I said, any wastewater treatment plant will lower water quality from its existing condition. So it is going to lower quality. That's the rules that we are required to meet by the legislature and by the Clean Water Act. So there will be an impact if the wastewater treatment plant discharges on water quality. It will still meet minimum protection requirements and it will still protect public health, but it will have an impact. So our preference is to not issue that permit.
But how could you even consider issuing this permit if it would have half of what he says here is true? He's basically spelling out a disaster, and you're considering it, or you've stated you're going to issue this permit.
We're prepared
How could
to,
you
yes.
do that?
Well, and despite the fact that all the residents have also said that the increase in flooding is 100% guaranteed. Who's
Yeah,
going to be
we-
culpable for these major floods? Eagle, the hydrologic unit, the
So-
residents?
Yeah, so thanks for your question. We have our scientists and engineers look at this. We've done an evaluation. We believe that at higher storm risk, that it is a relatively insignificant increase. That said, We'll go back and we'll look at the letter, and we'll make sure that we're evaluating everything that the county is saying as well. But I want to specify too, and I hope this point isn't lost, our preference is not to issue the permit you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we're
But
looking
that's not
for.
the issue. Excuse
That's
me.
not the issue.
The issue is how in good conscience can the state, can Eagle,
Yep.
based on what Evans is saying and other people have said, I mean, is Evans, blowing smoke here, or is he not valid as his engineers or scientists? Remember, Wayne County has their own environmental
That's correct, yes.
system, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, for sure.
This goes through Wayne County, so would what he says not have some standing?
So let me give us an opportunity to take a look at that. You're not giving me an opportunity to do
So does
that.
that mean if you look at it, then you're prepared to revoke the permit?
Well, we haven't issued the permit yet, so we're not talking about revoking any permit.
So what I'm hearing then is that based on what Evans is saying and other people are saying, and Wayne County has an environmental department and are responsible for all the drains going through Wayne County, thinks that it will be a disaster. Have you not talked to them? Have you talked to Evans? Have you talked to his people?
Let me check if we've looked at this letter.
So we haven't checked, so your answer is no, because you're.
No,
hedging.
that's not the
You're badgering
case.
the witness.
Yeah, that's not the case.
You're answering.
I've got the floor.
No, excuse
I've got the
me.
floor.
No, apologize.
Shut up, John.
Apologize.
Shut up, John.
Apologize.
Shut up, John.
Oh, shut up, is that, put that in the record.
Yeah.
The clerk says shut up.
So then the second part of my question is, given that there could be this type of effect that.
A disaster.
A disaster, have there been instances where Eagle has gone to issue a permit? Have there been lawsuits that have stopped a permit?
So let me talk about that too. So there's always the opportunity, if we were to issue an MPDES permit, there's always the opportunity for a third party to contest issuance of that permit. It goes through the administrative law judge as well. And then it could go to court too. So there are options to do that too. So everyone should know that even if we are to issue a permit for this, not our preference, if we are to issue a permit for this, you do have an opportunity to contest the permit as a third party. And further, you could always go to court as well.
How many times has that happened in the state of Michigan?
Oh, boy, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer.
But has it happened?
Oh, of course it's
Oh,
happened.
okay.
But if Canton votes this down, then you're going to issue the permit, and this letter is warning of an ecological disaster.
So,
And you've already indicated if Canton voted this down in their next meeting, you'd write the permit the next day, and we've got this potential disaster. It cost everybody $20 million. No,
They're actually voting tonight.
No, they're
No, they're
not.
they're
I
not.
think June 10th.
They
No,
don't have a meeting today.
not till June 10th.
Yeah, and we'll be there as well for that. So definitely our preference is the sewer alternative. We'll take a look and look at this, but our engineers did look at this and they believe that the downstream flooding issue is within the margin of error in how they model it, and they do believe it's insignificant. That said, our preference is to.
I understand what your preference is, but as it stands right now, you don't know that your team has talked with Wayne County and their team.
I don't know that exact thing, so I'll have to find out. I apologize. I mean, they may have, I just need to find that out.
Sounds like they haven't.
Mr. Supervisor?
Any other questions?
I do have a
Yeah,
question.
yes, sir.
Hold on, he was first. He mentioned earlier.
I still don't know a few things, but people talk about what those can be between 500 and 1,000 homes. Do you already know what the answer is? How many homes there's going to be in Salem?
What is
I
the number?
I hear 554.
554 at build-out or initially?
Okay. And the second question is, if there's going to be a pipe, would that be a 12-foot or an 18-foot pipe?
So it'd be an inch, and then we'll have to take a look at the design for that. I'm not here to talk about the design. We will review the design, our engineers in our Warren office.
Okay.
We'll review the design to make sure that what's put in that pipe can be pumped effectively all the way to Ypsilanti. I'm not here to talk about the
Okay.
design issues.
Because I've had a number of people talking about, say, for 500 homes, that would be okay. But people are concerned that it may be turned into 1,000 homes, 2,000 homes, because now they got that huge pipe, you can just continue to bill and bill and bill. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about our permitting process on the construction for the sewer pipe. We look at a basis of design, and that has a service area. And that service area is designed for both current and also future conditions. So whatever's in that design and for that permit for existing and for future conditions is how they'll be constrained. And the design will have to meet the conditions at the upper end. So that will be part of the basis of design. And what I'm hearing is it's 540.
554.
The next one section, so remember the USD is.
He's gotta come up.
1,200 acres, which is-
You got to come up here to the, we can't hear you. Come up to the
Yeah.
podium.
Please, can we stick with this witness?
Well,
I'd like
we
to
wanna-
answer.
We want to
this.
answer
I'd
the
like to
question.
question him.
John,
And not get off on
stop,
a.
John, hold on. Look, we want to answer this question that Mark Clinton had. Maybe there's some light that can be shed upon it.
All right, my name's Gary Whitaker. I'm the Salem Township Supervisor in Salem.
Welcome.
Thank you. Anyway, just a little bit just about the USD. So it's 1,400 acres, which basically from North Territorial to Joy Road, from Napier west going to almost Weed Road. So that's consists of, like if you look at M14 at the exit there, the four corners, that's kind of a total of like 1,400 acres. So if you look at the master plan, it's kind of spelled out for residential, office park, commercial, down by Gofferson Road. So there's a whole mixed use there. But this one section at Napier Road and Gofferson Road, that's 550 homes, what is slated. That's the only plan that we have before us. It's not a final site plan yet, but it's getting reviewed. Hopefully that answers. Any other questions?
Hold on, we can't hear things in the audience yet. We're finishing here. John, you had a question now.
Yes, please. By the way, full disclosure, Mr. Argyroff and I have had lengthy discussions. 2 weeks ago, I called him pursuant to his letter dated February 25th of 2025, 517-290-3039, and he answered my phone. We talked for about a half an hour. He was in Chicago at the time, and I was able to secure a commitment for him to come here tonight. With his 42 years of work experience in this field of civil engineering, graduate of Livonia Bentley High School, bachelor's and master's in chemical engineering from the University of Michigan, but practical work experience of more than 40 years. I asked him the basic question to me about the construction of whether it's a pipe or whether it's a wastewater treatment plant and the environmental impact. And he said, well, you were kind of known to be a George Romney, put your fist down on the bottom of on the desk and get to the bottom line answer. But he said, I'm going to give you a Millikan answer. He said, by far the most environmentally highest degree proposal, the environmental highest degree proposal is a connect up the pipe. And he said, I will come to your meeting and I will prove that to you, and I will talk to you about that this is by far, B-Y, far, F-A-R, the most environmentally best thing to do, and we will provide oversight and accountability. And we will provide oversight and accountability from the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy Division of the state of Michigan. So I would like to give you a chance to enlighten us some more on why you seem to tell me that this is environmentally by far the best way to go with connect up the pipe.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And one,
What is your professional opinion?
Yeah, one, I didn't get involved in politics, so we didn't talk about that, but just so everyone knows. But I do believe it is the environmentally preferred alternative. One is, when you allow a permit, it has to meet our minimum standards. That's how the law is established. That's how the Clean Water Act is. At drought conditions of a river, it has to meet minimum standards, water quality standards. Right now, that area achieves higher than minimum standards. So if we do permit it, it is acceptable to issue the permit, and we are required to follow the law that the legislature sets for us. We will issue the permit, but it will have a degradation and a lowering of water quality. That anti-degradation statement says that. It says, if we permit it, there will be a lowering of water quality. So that's one of the things that says there's a preference towards the sewer instead of the wastewater treatment plant. The next thing is the compliance ability. So Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority is one of the biggest wastewater treatment plants we have in the region. It's Great Lakes Water Authority, Downriver, Ypsilanti Community Utility. They are well regulated, they are well inspected. Our smaller plants are too, but it's a lot more difficult to regulate smaller wastewater treatment plants than it is some of these larger regional plants. So I do believe the commitment there on a compliance basis is stronger. And I think the last thing is the regional aspect. I mean, we're trying to make sure that we use existing infrastructure, and existing infrastructure is this wastewater treatment plant. Salem already has capacity at Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority for wastewater treatment plant. If we go out and build duplicate wastewater treatment, then there's a degradation there. I mean, there's we're asking for something else to be constructed when it doesn't need to be constructed, and that's why the sewer alternative is the preferred alternative. So those three things make us say that it's the preferred alternative, and we strongly prefer it. Thanks.
Oh, no, just wait a minute.
So again, sorry.
Well, I'm gonna make a statement. Farmland, which is relatively flat, in a 24-hour period, on 160 acres, which is a quarter of a section, the watering system, the ones that go in a circle, puts 4 million gallons out in a 24-hour period. So if you put that into perspective, that's 4 times what the sewage treatment plant would put out in 24 hours. And farms typically don't want flooding because it will wash the crops away. So that's just a fact, that's typically what is watered with those large irrigation systems. 4 million a day on 160 acres.
So you're saying that's what's already been being put
No,
out
I don't
there
know
all
if that's
these
what they're
years?
doing there, but it gives you a perspective. It's just an order of magnitude so you can understand. Typically, farmers aren't stupid enough to flood their field. So, or their ditches, because they know that they have to get equipment in there and they don't want their crops to drown. So 4 million gallons in a 24-hour period, to me, that's a lot of water. But they're doing it on a regular basis, farm crops in Michigan.
So one thing
But
I do want to
again,
note, I'm sorry.
You know, the position of Eagle is that you're going to issue the permit if any one of the 3 communities denies the pipeline. But if you issue the permit, you're going to cost the taxpayers of Wayne County $20 million. And you can still, you have an off-ramp in your letter. You talk about an off-ramp, meaning that if they determine that the pipeline is not viable with no real definition of what viability is, it could be it's not viable because it's too expensive. You're going to issue the permit and you're going to do a significant amount of at least economic, if not ecological damage to the people of Wayne County. Because if, so 2 things could happen. One of the 3 communities could turn it down, or all three communities could pass it, and they still have the option of getting the wastewater treatment plant permit because they've determined that it's not a viable solution, per your letter.
So let me talk a little bit about viability. What we're talking about is ability to put a pump station in, put it in a force main or a gravity sewer and get it to that location. We're not looking necessarily at the comparability of costs, though we will consider some of that. We are prepared with anti-degradation to be able to say, even if it costs more to send it through a sewer pipe, then we believe still that it's the viable alternative. So I'm going to disagree with you a little there.
Will you go through that one more time, please, to make clarity?
Yeah, so I think there's an opportunity for us to consider viability, and one is like engineering viability, like putting pump stations in, putting force main in, getting the sewage from this location down to the Ypsilanti Community Utility Authority. That's our desire, is to use that. Now, if it's a little more costly, if it's more costly, we're still going to consider it the viable solution, because when you look at anti-degradation, it basically says that we have to make sure that we are looking at the best alternative possible. There's nothing that says the costs have to be exactly comparable.
If you go to the end of this letter, go to the end of the letter there. That is the end of the letter, right? Should Plymouth Township, Canton Township, and Van Buren Township each approve resolutions authorizing Salem Township to construct a sewer line, the Wayne County Department of Public Services will promptly review any proposed construction plans as part of the construction permit process. In the meantime, I have directed DPS staff to continue to monitor. This is, in my interpretation of this, is they're wishing a pipeline.
No, they're not.
They're not?
No, they're just saying that if it were, they would do their due diligence. That's what that statement says, where I went to school.
Why would they write this thing then?
Because that's what they do, that's what governments do.
No, but I mean,
Is it a coincidence that Canton Township canceled their meeting tonight?
no, they didn't, it wasn't on their meeting schedule because of Memorial Day. That's what the
Because it says
supervisor
May
told me.
27th right here.
I know, but
To
what,
approve the resolution, then you go to their website and it says canceled.
right, well, they're not happy.
just seems
They
kinda
canceled it a month
curious.
ago.
When I spoke to the supervisor, she said they got all of their business done and they were able to get it all on one meeting. And so it was an intentional decision to put it off until.
And that's just.
It was canceled before our
coincidental.
last meeting.
So let's shift gears, if we could, and talk about that point with Canton. We've discussed the fact that providing this right-of-way or this permit to Salem Township has a value. It has a pecuniary value of some sort. And we've received word back, with all due respect, that the developer, Salem Township, is not interested in providing any sort of economic or non-economic compensation to us for the value of what we would be giving up.
That's the developer or that is Salem Township government?
Well, it's both. Well, I don't want to put words in people's mouths. Gary can answer that question. So Canton has asked for a considerable amount of concessions, and of which they've been told that, my understanding is they've been told that they would not accommodate. However, they
It's
have.
in writing in the board packet.
Yeah, however, Canton has indicated in the media, for what that's worth, that they're continuing to negotiate to try to get some benefit flowing to them. So what I would suggest is that if Canton gets something, we ought to get something. So we ought to wait until Canton passes it before we vote, and to determine if there's any concessions that Canton gets out of
I
this.
think that's what they're doing to us, to see how we vote.
They're doing that to us.
Well, our concessions, since it's so close to the Canton border, we have a mile and a half, we're not getting any benefit They're just passing through. Canton is seeking the opportunity to place more pipes in the same open trench, if they open trench it, to drain their sewers, sewage treatment for septic. They have 300 people on septic they want to get off, and then maybe some storm sewer that would go in there. I don't know of anything we want to put in we don't need anything in that area. If we get a cash payment, that would be great. But I want to hear so now we're into the playing chicken with the developer in Salem Township, and I don't know how to manage that. You personally went and spoke to Gary Whitaker, and he said he didn't want to negotiate. He didn't want a 425. He didn't want anything, and he has the default of the sewage treatment plant in his pocket. That's what I think is keeping the negotiations from happening.
As an option, it's not in his pocket. That has connotations.
Oh, well,
I don't like being held hostage myself.
well,
Can I mention one thing about that last paragraph? When it talks about the design issue for the Wayne County, what they do is they approve plans and specifications. They then send it to our district office for approval as well. So it gets a double set of review, and we're the ones that issue the construction permit.
the construction permit
For
for
the
a
sewer.
pipeline and a sewage treatment plant
But correct, for both.
would both
yeah.
come from,
Right.
Same
Eagle.
folks, yeah.
Warren Evans has nothing to do with it.
right.
Same folks.
So that's why I'm miffed at what that last sentence says. To me, I interpret that as they're supporting a pipeline,
All right.
but in a very veiled way.
All right, thanks for the opportunity. Any other questions, or?
Please don't leave.
I'm
not
sure
planning
we'll
to.
have more.
So if I can
So
just.
Gary Whitaker, yeah,
If I can just make a comment about negotiations. So I believe it was this township board that appointed Bob and Sandy and Chuck to talk about negotiating or something that would be available if the sewer came through Plymouth. Same thing with Canton. I never said I wouldn't negotiate with anything, other than we can't negotiate because of what the permit that was awarded to Salem is, that it has to go for the infrastructure for the urban services district. So there was, it's a matter of not holding it over somebody's head. It's a matter, we have two choices to make, and you have a choice to make. But it's not by saying, well, we demand this from Salem Township or Canton demand. I would ask too for something.
Well, what about the developer?
I'm sorry, what?
What about the deep pockets of the developer?
I told everybody who talked to me, we had breakfast with, some of you that had breakfast with me, you said, you're more than welcome to talk to the developer.
Okay.
So-
So are you willing, Mr. Supervisor, Gary Whitaker of Salem Township, are you willing to put on record that you're not going to offer Canton Township on June 10th any more than what you would be willing to offer the people of Plymouth Township?
Correct. And we have done that.
Is that correct? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct.
We have your commitment.
Correct.
Because Canton Township's board is not meeting and voting on this until June 10th.
Correct.
Maybe.
Right.
Oh, at the earliest.
Yeah. But again, you talk about 425, it talks about something down the road. I mean, we're always willing to talk to something, but as far as to bring a sewer line through the road right away for a sewer, there's no negotiating with it. We can't spend the money on that.
Now, I believe you have legal counsel here tonight from Salem Township. And can he testify as to the
Whose side are
standard
you on?
of care, standard of negotiation in regard to, I mean, this could get to a point where you could extortion of say, we're not going to give you this unless we get this. And maybe his experience, again, we have another professional here with more than 40 years' experience.
I mean, I don't believe that's what Plymouth Township's doing to us. I would never assume that. But
Well, you've made your commitment. You're not going to treat Plymouth Township any different than Canton Township.
Whose side are you on, John?
If I may, Ed Plato, Salem Township Attorney, thank you to the board for hearing us out tonight. Salem Township has been approached by both Supervisor Kermey and the supervisor for Canton Township, asking, what can you do for us? And in both instances, we have formally and informally said, we can't do anything. We're bound by grant money received from the state of Michigan, has to be used for either the wastewater treatment plant or the pipeline that's designed to go down to Yucca. We can't expend money beyond those grant monies that are available. There's really nothing outside we can do. The benefit for having a pipeline to Plymouth Township is that you're not going to get a wastewater treatment plant, and it's going to be a much more environmentally sound way to do it. The benefit to Canton Township is for having a sewer pipe is that you're not going to have a wastewater treatment plant draining into the Fellows Creek stream that's going to maybe increase flooding downstream, which has been a problem for Canton Township. So there's benefits to both townships to approving the sewer pipe over the wastewater treatment plant. And there's certainly downside to both townships for not approving the sewer pipe and mandating that there's going to have to be a wastewater treatment plant.
So establishing these intellectually honest, truthful facts to here tonight is being on the side of the people.
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
John,
Otherwise, we got to build, you're going to go ahead with a wastewater treatment plant.
Salem Township is,
Stake up the west side of Washtenaw County and the west end of Wayne County and the east end of Washtenaw County.
I've heard that there are some board members that believe that by denying this sewer line to go down to Yucca, that it will stop any development in Salem Township. That is entirely false belief. All the sewer lines are within the urban service district. The water pipes are in. Developers have spent millions of dollars there. The state of Michigan itself has invested over $30 million. That development's going to proceed. The only decision is the waste from that development going to go to a wastewater treatment plant, or is it going to go through a sewer line underground in the public right-of-way that nobody will see down to Yucca? And the way I see it, this board holds the switch. You can vote no on the sewer line, and the switch will send that sewage to the wastewater treatment plant, or you can vote yes, give us consent to go through Plymouth, and that waste will then go to, like I said, underground sewer pipe down to Ypsilanti. It will have environmental benefits for everybody over a wastewater treatment plant. You hold the key. You hold the switch of which way that's going to go.
To some extent, because the Stantec report was, with no disrespect intended, was kind of a study to do a study. In it, they cite either a 12-inch or an 18-inch pipeline, which are two very, very different things. A 12-inch pipeline would support the urban services district. An 18-inch pipeline would create a city. And you guys haven't been able to even answer that simple question, what are you trying to build?
I think a representative from Stantec is here. My understanding is it's the size of the pipe, I believe, is 12 inches, and it will only have enough capacity to serve the urban service district in Salem Township. That's why nobody else has to worry about somebody tapping into that pipeline because it would exceed capacity.
So
Salem Township will own that pipeline. Salem Township will be responsible for monitoring that pipeline. And Eagle has indicated, and Mr. Agarwal can verify this, that no one else will be allowed to tap into that pipeline. It will be solely for the benefit of the urban service district in Salem Township.
So you wouldn't object to a resolution that contained a condition that it could only be a 12-inch pipeline then?
well, yeah, come up here,
The question
Will.
is the size of the pipe, whether it's going to be, been references to a 12-inch or an 18-inch.
No,
Sorry, my name is Najib Gusani. I'm with Stantec, and
Could you speak loudly, please?
oh, sure. Can you hear me now?
Is this a civil engineer?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't, thank you for telling me.
Speak loud.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I work with Stantec. I'm a licensed civil engineer, and I've been working on this project on and off. But we haven't gone into the details of design yet. All we've done is a very high-level study of where the pipe is going to go. We have not done any hydraulic calculations, how big it is, how thick it is, how deep it is. This is all still to be ironed out in the design process.
But isn't it,
So
and I'm not
our
a,
estimate, it could be 12 to 18 inches in that range, but we don't really know at this point.
and I'm not a civil engineer, and I'm not going to pretend that I am, but why is, why are you unable at this point to commit to a 12-inch pipeline? Because you know what as an engineer, you can calculate the capacity of that 12-inch pipeline and how many residential and commercial units that would support, what kind of flow that would support, right? Because why are you unable to determine that, you know, it's mathematical, right? Why aren't you able to determine that you could serve the Urban Services District with a 12-inch pipeline and do everything they want to do within the boundaries that Mr. Whitaker articulated, the 1,400 acres?
Yeah,
You can't comprehend that?
Maybe I can answer the question this way. Stantec will design the pipe so that the maximum capacity of the pipe will only service the urban service district in Salem Township. There will not be any additional capacity available in that pipe. That's the way the pipe will be designed. Is that correct? Can you agree with that?
So it won't be an 18-inch pipe?
But let me just say this, so.
Get closer to the mic and speak louder.
Okay, so our charge was, and your charge was, back from at Northridge, was to work with Salem Township to come up with an alternate plan to take the sewer. That was what everybody's job was. Our job, we hired our engineers to do the study to see if it was feasible to go down the route that we said to make sure there were no pipes in the way. I think there's a 60-inch line that we can't get over by Napier Road to get through Canton. We have to come on the Plymouth side. So that's the engineering that we did to see if it was even feasible to get in the road right away, all the way to Ypsilanti. Not to put hundreds of thousands of dollars in to say, you know, what size of pipe that we're gonna need, or what are we gonna have coming from the Urban Services District down to Ypsilanti.
Well,
So-
it matters to us because it's more than the sewage.
Well, again, that's the report that you asked
It impacts
us.
our entire community,
You were-
how big you guys
Correct.
develop. So we're
But you
trying
asked-
to get to that point.
Okay, but you asked us to also look at, to see what's the feasible way to get, if that was an alternative route instead of a wastewater treatment plant. And that's what we came up with. So,
But that still doesn't answer the question, based on a larger scale.
So I spent a lot of years reviewing designs in the Warren office. I was there for 20 years reviewing. So when you design a force main, it matters what the head loss is in that pipe, what the pump station designs are, the size of the pumps, all kinds of things that are part of it. I think the bigger thing to constrain is the service district. I mean, it may be an 18-inch pipe will have less head loss, and it could drive the same amount of sewage with smaller pipes. So there's all kinds of things that are going to be looked at in the design of it. And we're not the designers, but we're the design reviewers, and they'll design it. So I think it would be unfortunate to constrain the size of the pipe. But if you want to constrain the size of the service district, that's a different story. I'm just offering my
Well, yeah, is
advice.
that in writing somewhere?
Could you
that
not go
it's
away
only-
for a second? Could you not go away for a second?
Hold on, let's hear what she
I
had
didn't
to
know
say.
she was done. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, is that in writing then somewhere?
What is in
I
writing?
respect what you said about the
About
engineering
pipes, yeah.
perspectives,
So
but
we
in
just-
terms of development of 554 homes, is that in writing somewhere? Is there some kind of
So
a guarantee?
there's a size of this wastewater treatment plant that's based on design average flow, that's 840,000 gallons. So if you want to make sure that the pipeline is designed to not exceed the 840,000 gallons, I mean, you could you could do something like that. It might cause a variation in the size of the pipe, and I don't want to be constrained when we do design review based on what we're deciding here without looking at design requirements to a size of the pipe, because it's based on flow through that pipe, 2 feet per second. You have to have through a force main. You have to have head losses that are accounted for, and you have to have the elevation has to be accounted for as well. All kinds of things that go into this. We design versus 10 state standards. We have checklists that ask us for those. But to the constraint of the service district is another thing. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's maybe a
Hold on.
approach. Oh, sorry.
I have a question. So all of this wastewater stuff is going to be created in Washtenaw County. Why don't you move the wastewater treatment over to, like over by Carl's Cabin, and then have it go into Fleming Creek and stay in Washtenaw County as opposed to coming into us? Why don't you put it over there?
Okay, these were a lot of the comments that people talked about at the hearing as well. And I don't know that we're here tonight to talk about those. Just so you know, the wastewater treatment plant is on the far east side, but the actual discharge, I think, is a half-mile upstream from the wastewater treatment plant. So the discharge is a half-mile upstream in Washtenaw County.
But you could pump it there.
You're pumping it west.
Yeah, their discharge is west of the wastewater treatment.
You could pump it over to Fleming Creek, couldn't you?
You could do a lot of different things.
You could, couldn't you? But you want to put it into Wayne County.
I don't want to put it anywhere. We're reacting to a design proposal.
Because you're going to issue the permit. And so you haven't given us other alternatives. This is a Washtenaw County problem that you're putting on to Wayne County. Why not put it on the west side of Washtenaw County or Salem and pump it into Fleming Creek and let Washtenaw County deal with it and see where you go?
So this was so in the hearing at Northridge Church, this was brought up. So what is the answer? Do we have?
They want to hold us hostage. That's what they want to do. And so they need to put it over on the west side of by Carl's Cabin.
It says that right in there. Salem Township has threatened construction. Those are the words in our
That was put
packet.
in by our attorney.
Kevin, do you have any thoughts as to, can this resolution be structured in a way that would prohibit them from ever expanding beyond the urban services district for the pipeline?
I don't think you can.
That's kind of
'Cause that's a future.
a question without an answer. The statute that applies in this case does not speak to consideration or limitations, it just only speaks to consent. But I suppose it doesn't say that Plymouth Township could not impose conditions on consent, but once the project is built and they decide to exceed what Plymouth Township consented to, there's gonna be litigation.
Yeah, and who's gonna stop them?
Yeah, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
One thing is, we're talking about the solution also. The sewage treatment plant location, Jerry, is a moot point if we go with a pipeline.
No, it's not a moot point, because they're putting it there to threaten us and to force us into taking their sewage from Washtenaw County into Wayne County. Why don't we just have it over on their west side, over by Carl's Cabin, pump it into Fleming's Creek, and let it run down to the tributaries into the.
Well, but still, the pipeline.
With all due respect, nobody is threatening Plymouth Township.
Yes, you are.
The location of the wastewater treatment plant was studied for over a 2-year period. That has to be somewhat close to the lift station for the sanitary that's already in place. And
Build
that
a new one.
location,
You got $30 million. Build a new one.
A new what?
A new lift station. Put it over there on the
are
other
you
side.
offering the $30 million for us to do that?
You guys got the money, not me.
Most of that money has already been spent.
Well, you guys got the legislature to give you guys money, so go get some more.
That's not possible.
Like, I'm sorry, you did it before.
It's not a threat.
You got
All
$30
I'm
million
telling you,
of the public's money
all I can say is your
for a
choice.
private entity.
Your choices tonight. You either approve a pipeline or you get a wastewater treatment plant located on the border.
No, that's not
That's
what
the choice.
we
That's
can
the only
sue.
choice.
Because we could sue and we'll win.
Oh, hold on, just don't, you guys are gonna get your chance. Let's hear Senator Bear, who's here patiently.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for giving me a minute or two to speak to the issue, which I was here at the last meeting, and the top issue for me, again, is still the residents who live along the creek. And that includes the people in Canton, by the way. They have the same problem we have here. They have the same concern that we have here. We don't want the treated water to go down the creek in people's backyards. Even though it's clean enough to standards, we know that it's going to degrade the quality of the water, and we don't want that to happen. And I think people worked to find an alternative solution to that. I actively was involved in trying to find another stream on the Washtenaw County side. Eagle did do investigation in looking for another way to find a stream that it would have sufficient capacity, at least according to the rules they have to live by. They have to live by the laws that we have. They can't just change them on the spot. By those rules, they could not find another creek within reach of that treatment plant to get the water down the path that was one option, Fellows Creek. We don't like that option. Everybody spoke up. 700 people were at the hearing. All those photos of what happens in heavy rainstorms already, which we know are getting worse with climate change. We don't want even 850,000, even though that's a small number compared to a big farmer. It's still water coming down your backyard when your yard's already filled up from the storm. You don't want any more. We want to avoid that solution. So I think the team collectively worked to find an alternative solution. A pipe underground is not a bother. It's a little pain when it's being put in, but then it's underground. We're really good at building that stuff. And we have organizations like Eagle, and Assistant Director Ardruff did a great job explaining that. They will be accountable. They will make sure that we meet all the rules and all the guidelines. We're pretty good at this stuff. It's so much safer for all of us, all of you who live here, to put that stuff in a pipe and send it down to the big plant. It's absolutely the right choice. We don't want to have that water down our backyards. And you're doing the right thing. I think there's a strong opinion to go with the pipeline. I don't think anybody's going to want to pay for a bigger pipeline than what they need. So there's that aspect. It's not the biggest concern. The biggest concern is what happens if we don't get the pipeline. Just keep that in the top of your minds as we think about this. The bigger concern is what happens to our communities' backyards if we don't put in the pipeline. And the same thing is going to happen to Canton. They're not going to walk away from this. They don't want to go into their backyards either.
But why aren't you holding Eagle to task?
Oh, hold on, we got two people talking. Hold on, the audience can't speak yet. Hold on.
Why aren't you holding Eagle to task rather than aiming those comments at the voting board? Why are you not calling Eagle out for their indication that they're going to approve this if there's any of those off-ramps and create this ecological disaster?
I did actually the same things that you all said. I did say the same things, and Assistant Director can attest to that. I went at them pretty hard. How can you do this to people who don't have any benefit by it? It's in a different town, it's in a different county, it's a different community. Well, how can you let that happen? The challenge we have in Michigan and in every state is we have these arbitrary boundaries. Water doesn't really care about those lines that we drew on a map. We live in a region that has a lot of water. We live in a region, and really, people that live here in Plymouth and Township, the people that live in Salem Township, are fortunate enough to have some space that there's development going on. And when you develop, that's infrastructure that's needed. We have to think as a region more than just our dotted lines on the map. We have to learn to think that way. It does matter. If we needed a little excess capacity and it was next door, and it cost less to do that, or it was even the only real good feasible option, you work with your neighbors, you work with the communities that are around you. But the fact is that working with Eagle by making them literally go over there and walk around, they walked around to see Fellows Creek. I dragged them out here. We made them come out and see what they were talking about. Make sure you know what it looks like. We had a big hearing. We had all those photos. Same thing we did in Washington County, in Salem Township. We went over and then looked. We poured over the maps. We blew them up, looking for every little stream that was headed in the right direction to see if there was another way to do that. There's just no good way to do that water treatment plant. The best option is a sewer pipe.
But even if we approve the pipeline, there's no guarantee they're not going to do the wastewater treatment plant. There's no guarantee whatsoever for 3 reasons. One of the other 2 communities could turn it down. 2, he articulated 2 off-ramps, including viability. What if they determine that the pipeline is going to cost 3 times what it would cost to put in the treatment plant? They're going to say it's not viable. Here's your permit. And why aren't you calling the Eagle out to say, what are you doing to Wayne County? No. You're potentially promising a permit in which you could impose a tax of $20 million on the people of Wayne County and screw the people in western Wayne County that are in the floodplain of Fellows Creek, because Eagle has clearly said they reserve the right to issue this permit if the pipeline doesn't go through. Who's calling them out for this?
So we did call them out. They came back, right? They held on. It did not issue the permit. That's why everybody's been waiting a year. They have literally been holding this for a year, looking for an alternative. There is an alternative. The developer also wants to continue the project and finish it. They have a big investment already. They need a way to handle the water. So if Eagle permits the pipeline,
then why don't we have the resolution was drafted? Why doesn't it say, if the communities approve this pipeline, Eagle will deny the permit permanently, and there will be no chance that they will be able to go back and say, oh, sorry, we did the feasibility study and it's just too freaking expensive to go that route, so we're gonna have to build this plan anyway. And Eagle says, here's your permit, just like we promised you.
no, that's not how it works.
Why not?
Eagle doesn't care about that issue. I mean, the developer owns the cost. Eagle is going to permit the best solution at any given time. So if right now the best solution is a pipe, that's the one they want to permit. They don't want to permit the other alternative. They're not going to say, hear from the developer suddenly that this is going to cost too much, so give us the other one. They're not going to agree to that. That's not how it works.
What damage are you doing by contributing to the optimal regional solution for now and moving in the direction of no sewage treatment plant? Trying to understand, or is the underlying objective to stop development in a neighboring community and county, or I'm trying to understand how to get to the right solution of avoiding a sewage treatment plant. I think there's more going on to it than that.
No, I don't care that they're developing. Everyone knows I'm pro-development. I've always been pro-development. And I don't care that they develop. However, I don't want their shit, okay? And so.
But if it's in a pipeline.
No, they're threatening me. And what they need to do is to move that plant over to the other side of Salem.
But we don't want a plant.
No
matter
they
under
do.
Any circumstances.
No, if they're going to get one, put it over there, and then let it run to the tributaries.
It's regionally detrimental to have a plant that degrades the water.
That's why we have an.
What I'm saying is, I'm not naive, and I have no more right to tell Salem Township what they could do than they have the right to tell us what we can do. I'm not naive, and development's going to happen. But I want an absolute, if I'm going to be asked to vote for this pipeline, I want an absolute guarantee that under no circumstances will there be a wastewater treatment plant built there now or ever.
And we're not getting that. We're getting nothing but weasel wiggle room out of this. Well, maybe. If it's not viable, then we'll issue the permit. If, then maybe.
All right, so let's, Senator Bear, when you're wrapped up, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene and hear what some of you have to say. And hopefully you're preparing your thoughts so that they're efficient and succinct and, above all, truthful. All
Can I
right?
just ask a quick question? We have a resolution in here that's opposing the wastewater
Right,
treatment
because some of
facility.
you said you wanted something like that, so we're putting that in
So,
there.
but what teeth does that have in the grand?
It has no teeth. It's just,
So
we're
it's just
opposing it.
fluff.
Well, if we ever go to court, then they'll be used in court.
Right.
So I think it would be in your best interest to vote against a wastewater treatment plant. That's what I do.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how much.
I think we just really want to focus on, we have a better option. It took some time to get there. There is an alternative. You can take the alternative. And if someday, 15 years down the line, somebody shows up from another township or county and says, hey, we want to have a wastewater treatment plant, Eagle will start over again, and the process will begin again. Hopefully, we'll have stronger laws by then. Some of us have been trying to make those rules a little bit tighter and stronger, so they don't have as much flexibility on certain things. Maybe we change the quality of water levels, all those things, but that is on the legislature. Eagle uses the rules and laws as they are today every time someone asks for a permit. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
This is a better alternative for the current situation. Go ahead, sorry.
What?
It's very rare to get Mr. Argeroff, supervisor from Salem Township, and Council Ed Plato here. So I'm inviting you at the break, all the people here, to go and question them.
Be respectful.
Be respectful.
5 minutes.
But they are professionals, and they will be,
All right. What, do you want more time?
okay.
Thank you.
No, I'm just saying,
All right, so
everybody can't go.
we're going to be back here at 8:25.
Is there a private potty in the back?
county says we're gonna flood, and they say, no, we're not.
And we know.
All right, call to order. Everybody got their seats or they're ready? Okay, call to order at 8:30 PM. We're reconvening. So, please be brief and not overly repetitious. This is a gift. We have people in the audience and on the board who don't like the concept of too many talking, but we're going to try it, a little bit of democracy in action. But before we go, I think we have a couple of comments from Spalding to Decker, Jeremy Schroet, who is paid by Plymouth Township, who may have some additional comments after he's heard some of the discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. I think just a couple points of clarification, because we were talking about numbers, and there is numbers in their anti-degradation demonstration that they put out a couple of years ago. They're talking about their urban service district is 1,750,000 square feet of commercial space and roughly 3,000 residential units. So it's not, 554 is just the development they're talking about right now, but that overall 840,000 gallons is up for up to 3,000 residential units. So I think that's important to understand.
Are you saying 840,000 would be the effluent from 3,000 homes?
That's what they're saying in this
Total.
report. The anti-degradation report is talking about what that urban service district could generate, and that's what they're permitting, is up to that full
All right,
use.
so it's being built to the
That's the 1,400 acres that they're talking about.
anticipated build-out.
Right.
So it won't be going over 850,000 gallons.
Right, so
In fact,
again-
early on, it'll be a trickle early on.
Right, correct. The 550 homes is just a fraction of the overall full build-out flow. Another point in this same exact anti-degradation was just that there was talk about the Salem Township wastewater treatment plant, now the Hamlet treatment plant. It discharges 0.07 million gallons a day, where we're talking about 0.84 million gallons a day. That is limited due to protect the unique aquatic environment in the Johnson Drain, which is interesting because Friends of the Rouge did put out a letter about Fellows Creek and the aquatic environment there too. And they're concerned about that, what that discharge could do to that downstream.
For everybody's reference, he's talking about the sewage treatment plant that is in the village of Salem on 6 Mile Road.
Right.
Really? Very small. It's 1/100th the size of is that right? It's 0.7 and we're at 8.4? Is that 100?
Yeah, it's 0.07. 0.07 versus 0.84.
What is the order of
So
magnitude?
it's like
Is that
10
100?
times. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, greater than 10 times, 12 times, something like that.
12 times.
Yeah.
And where does that go? Where does that?
What creek does Salem
Johnson Drain.
Johnson,
Drain.
that comes through Wayne County?
Yeah.
Okay.
That drains through Plymouth Township by the gun range
Gun range.
Yeah, and again, from
and goes to
the,
Northville.
from the amount of discharge that we're talking about, the 840,000 gallons, we're talking about hydraulic and hydrologic. We did put together a TR55 desktop drainage study back in April of '24 that we did share with Eagle through public comment and, through other areas. And it wasn't an insignificant amount of water. I think what we were highlighting was in like a general storm, a 1-year storm, it was a 24% increase. And in a 10-year storm, it was an 8% increase. So it just matters on which storm you're talking about. If you get up to a 100-year storm, yeah, it's probably insignificant compared to that. But when you talk about daily flow, it's not insignificant.
Say that one more time. Go through that.
So when you talk about a regular April or May storm, the amount of water that's in that creek is going to be significantly more than what was there prior to the wastewater treatment plant. Now, if we get a 100-year storm where you've got water coming out of everywhere, is that 840,000 gallons going to be a large percentage of that? No, right? But it's still going to add to it, for sure.
A 100-year storm was June of 2023.
So the next one will come in 21, 23?
Right. Unfortunately not.
Anything else that you can add from the observations we've heard? Pipeline size, 12, 18 inches. So what that tells us, if it's designed for 3,000 houses at 840,000 gallons a day, the pipeline will be designed for that.
I think that's what you're asking, is for it to be limited to what the urban service district is and not anything more than that. The pipe size is a little bit inconsequential because it depends on how much of it is gravity, how much of it is force main, what size pumps. Like, there's a lot more that goes into that. So the pipe size itself is less of the concern. The bigger concern should be what capacity are you allowing at the end of the day.
So for confirmation, is Eagle's calculation based on this 3,000 houses, 840,000 gallons a day, and Stantec, is that your calculation also? Or your assumption, excuse me, your assumption?
Yeah, the 840,000 gallons, I believe, was done in a study several years ago, and then that's equal to the
Gary, do you have any comments on that? Also, the size, the 3,000 homes, does that stick with what you're designing? Or not designing, what you're planning?
The master plan calls for homes on all 4 corners,
Homes in 4 corners, okay. So 4 times 500, that's 2,000, so all right.
Would anyone have any knowledge, would this be equivalent to the Cherry Hill Village development out in that area, South Canton? Is this bigger? Is it?
How many houses in Country Club Village and condos?
Including condos?
Including condos.
200, 300, 500.
500? But those are on very large lots.
Well, that includes the condos.
Yeah.
I'm guessing 200 condos.
Okay, so 500, so, all right, so it gives you an order of magnitude, it'll be 4 to 5 times that. Size of Country Club Village from dwelling units, maybe not geography, because
Right.
1 acre lots is very unusual, and that's what Country Club Village is. Except for the condos. All right, let's go. Who's first? Be brief, be succinct, be smart.
Did you sign in?
He did.
Thank you.
And everybody should be signing in, everybody on deck. There's somebody on deck, so we don't have to wait for you to sign in.
Okay, my name's Alex Wassel, Precinct 10, Heather Hill subdivision. Want to thank the board for their concern about this sewage treatment plant and the pipeline. I would say to all of you is make sure make sure you don't delay this project, the pipeline project, so we have a default sewage treatment plant.
Thank you.
I appreciate all your concerns. We can't, we shouldn't try to delay the pipeline and see what kind of benefits. What kind of benefits the township will somehow milk out of the developer or Salem Township. It doesn't work that way, or it shouldn't, and it would cause a problem legally. We shouldn't try to choke down the pipeline size on the offhand chance that you think it's going to stop development in Salem Township. I don't think that will happen. Let's win this fight first, and then if they have further developments, maybe we could take them on back then. And I'm in favor of low-density housing and small subdivisions. Hopefully, we could work with our neighbors in Salem Township and the developers to make sure that happens. But I don't think we could force them into it, but we might be able to convince them. Thank you for all your effort that you put into this topic, and I'm done right now.
I'm Vijay Chaudhary from the Plymouth Township resident. I spoke to the assistant director during the break, and he was very gracious. One of the things that I asked him is if the preference that the Eagle has taken, is it actually a position or a preference? And he was kind enough to tell me that it is actually a position, and he's going to clarify that. What really is a big difference, because you take a position, and if Eagle takes a position that that they don't want the sewage plant, or retreatment plant, then I don't believe there's any other authority that is going to overrule it. On the other hand, preferences, as you know, a big difference. So that is one thing. And second thing is, we have, in the previous hearings, heard a lot of these issues about the smell. And smell is a big part of the environment, and I'm sure that Eagle is very much responsible for that as well, if there is a treatment plant. And finally, I would echo something that the other gentleman said, that I don't think that township really wants to have any kind of return or some kind of a gift to allow the pipeline to run through it. More than likely, it is a misconception, whoever has it. And I'm hoping that the board would definitely approve those. And I talked to Mr. Kermit during the break, 2 motions. One is against the treatment plant, and the second one is in favor of the pipeline. Thank you.
And just to clarify, it has been noted that this water treatment facility would use ultraviolet modern technology, not sitting around type of smell that it would emit in other more archaic treatment facilities. I'm not for it, I'm just saying, just clarifying.
We lost our supervisor. I'm Dale Bernhardt. As we see in the 527 meeting agenda, there are 2 resolutions concerning options for Salem Springs sewage. The first resolution basically asks the trustees, who wants a wastewater treatment plant to be built at M14 and Napier Road? I assume all trustees will say they oppose this plan, as it would be political suicide to not oppose it. Second resolution is, who wants to grant consent to Salem Township to connect by underground pipeline to the Ypsi treatment plant? I believe some trustees will not vote to grant this. Logically, though, a trustee cannot vote against the treatment plant and vote against the pipeline to Ypsi, because if the pipeline isn't voted in, then the treatment plant will be the default option. There are only 2 choices. A vote against the pipeline is a vote for the treatment plant, period. It is well known the former fired supervisor wanted to delay the Salem Spring project by not granting any sewer line access, with the hope that it would just go away and that the developer is bluffing about building a treatment plant. But you see, Heisey doesn't know if the developer is bluffing. He is only hoping. And the same goes for some on this board. But what is known for sure is if the plant is built, it will decrease property values greatly. Fellows Creek will flood with sewage. It will smell and spread bacteria, virus, and fungi. So do the trustees really want to gamble with the residents' health, safety, quality of life, and home values because the former supervisor has a hunch? These are the goals of a treatment plant. The process involves biological decomposition of wastewater, making it less harmful. Properly designed treatment plants aim to prevent the release of contaminated water or wastewater into the environment. The primary concern is the potential for escaping wastewater to spread bacteria, virus, and fungi. Some trustees may still believe they can delay the project or get some sort of community benefit. But is it worth it? It certainly will not be worth it for the citizens on the west side if the delay causes a treatment plant to be built. Now, do any of us really want this urban development? A lot of people don't. But I guarantee you There is not one of our citizens on the west side who wants this treatment plant. I urge the trustees to do the right thing. Act on what you know and don't overcomplicate it. Just oppose the treatment plant and grant access for the underground pipeline. Choose for the citizens, not what Heisey wants. Serve us, not him. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Klotz. I'm a resident of Country Club Phase 4, which is right on the corner of Napier and Ann Arbor Road, which you had mentioned earlier about Country Club that's across the street where this would come. What I would say is similar, but I have a little twist to the person who previously spoke. I think we all agree it would be a big disaster to have a sewage plant. But I heard all of you. I passionately heard you because I have that same passion. I feel like we shouldn't have two options. We should have more options. I have been going and talking to Gary Whitaker for almost 20 years now. I'm really disappointed how this has turned out because when I first started to talk to him, we talked about we'd make sure there's appropriate setbacks if this happened because I was president of the board and very concerned about development. Now, because Eagle has said they will give a permit, which is surprising to me because they have to show more benefit than burden, not sure how they're getting to more benefit than burden, but if that permit is given, there is a right to appeal. I'm not saying we should go to that step now. What I'm saying is we have to make sure we don't get that sewage plant. So I will tell you from the first $35 million grant that was done, in my opinion, and I think if you looked, many articles would show you, not really above board. From the very beginning, there has been a lot of things. Why did all this money get spent without having a key utility in place? I don't know. But what I do know is we can't have a sewage plant. So I ask that you vote for the pipeline, but you also make a commitment that if one of those off-ramps are taken, that you are prepared to appeal if that permit was properly given. They have to give notice to everybody who was at that meeting. I gave comments and I showed up. I haven't gotten notice because the permit hasn't been given. I plan to appeal if no one else appeals. But I hope not to get to where we need to appeal and that we can get a solution ahead of time. But I know you cannot assure that. Canton also has to agree. So I ask that you, even if you don't like it, because you know this isn't done the way it should be done, you still approve it so that we don't have sewage in the back of our yards. And if then something else goes wrong, I ask the lawyer to be prepared. I ask the engineer to be prepared to do an appeal because we need you to represent us. Within a 2-mile radius, back a year ago, the value that was over $2 billion of property. If you lose that because there is this new sewage plant, you will lose value of everyone's home and you will get less taxes. I know there's some cost, but there's a much bigger cost if we have this sewage facility. Thank you.
Howard Hamrick, Ridgewood Hills, somewhat near the proposed site. I think it's time for common sense, not nonsense. Everyone and his brother who lives where we live, when there's not a 100-year rainstorm, just a normal, average spring storm, knows we have flooding, and it's there. That's why we have earthen dams out there to keep Tonquish from flooding the downtown area in Plymouth out. When you're dumping large numbers of treated fluid into a creek, which is normally a shallow creek with a slow or normal flow rate, and then the additional runoff from the property starts to fill that creek, there's no place for it to go. That's called the floodplain. And what's going to happen to those folks along the floodplain when they ask for flood insurance? They're going to think they moved to Florida. They're going to think they got to pay Florida premiums to live where they've lived for the last 20 years. Secondly, those of us that happen to be downwind, which is all of us on the east side, because the wind comes out of the west and the north, get to enjoy the aroma of the plant treatment ponds on a regular basis. We have a dump there already. Do we need more of air pollution? Do we need more of water pollution in the area when we have the ability and those folks have acquired access to the plant in Ypsilanti? So you want more. You want to destroy the western side of the township. Yet you're talking development. The previous administration, we have to develop, Mr. Heitman, we have to develop. Develop what? A cesspool? Folks, let's get rid of the nonsense. Let's look at a logical solution to a problem that started 10 years ago. Why do you think they put a super sewer along the Rouge? Why do we have the Rouge protection organizations? Because of these types of problems with runoff. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, members of the board. I come to you today to oppose the sewage treatment plant and oppose the sewer line. There's a litany of mistakes made. First mistake was Eagle granting that permit. If you worked for me, I'd have fired you for your incompetence in your whole organization. There's no reason to go ahead and you had 700 people go through and explain all the flood problems. So, stormwater. Has it ever been explained how much stormwater we going down Fellows Creek if you put 500 homes over there at Napier, off of Napier and Joy and Gofferson? Has anyone actually seen that number? That's a mistake. Another mistake that was made was there was no detailed plan for the sewer. It's an unfunded liability for the taxpayer of Michigan. We have no clue how much money it's going to cost. And it actually says that. There's no engineering analysis, nothing. It was just a 2-page, that's not even an engineering proposal. As someone who does work in engineering, that's not the way to do it. You should have paid the money, have the engineering firm put out the detailed plans like they did when they wanted to run the sewer lines through Superior Township. Another mistake. The fact is that there was no communication from Eagle with respect to the public on this as far as the draft permit, so we could actually take a look at what the sewage treatment plant would look like and where to be located at. Nobody knows over there. If you look at the master plan over in Salem Township, there's nothing showing a sewage treatment plant officially. So don't make a mistake and vote for this. I think there are other alternatives out there. You can buy the developer out. The headwaters of Fellows Creek should be protected so downstream people do not pay for the upside of upstream people. It would be very unneighborly and a tax burden to the citizens of Wayne County to allow that development to go in and have all that water coursing through that creek, whether it's sewer, treated sewer water, or stormwater. Please vote against that, and there's other alternatives that have to be looked at. You do have in the county of Washtenaw, where they are buying farmland out. I think public and private investments to buy that guy out would probably be the best way to go. And it was also mentioned in the last meeting from the gentleman from Superior Township, he also mentioned the same thing. I am very disappointed in Eagle. I'm very disappointed in our representatives because they're all looking at it as either a 1 or a 0. This is not engineering, folks. We're dealing with people downstream. So if you put in a sewer pipe, you're going to get stormwater down Fellows Creek. That is bad already. We already know that from 2 years ago, and you have an engineer and staff that pretty much said the same. So again, I urge the board to vote against the sewer treatment plant and against the sewer line. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you guys listening.
Anyone else?
Bill Pine, 47-year resident. I'm not directly affected by this. We live in Trailwood. But I've been sitting here listening to you guys, and there aren't 2 things you're talking about. There are 3 things, and you need to discount the third thing. The first thing is, do we want to do a sewage treatment plant? And I know you're all going to say no. Second thing is, do we want to do a pipe? And some of you are going to say no, I suspect. And the third thing that no one's talking about is that there are people on here who, because of what Heisey's done over the last 10 years, don't want development in Salem Township. That's not part of this issue. I mean, it affects the sewage system, but please, when you think about this, these guys are telling us, and specifically the guy from Eagle, I was really ragging on you guys a while ago, by the way, says that it's the law. If you guys turn down the pipe, and it could be really bad, it's the law that they have to do something else. So please separate this dislike for more development in Salem Township. I mean, you are the same guys on the racetrack who said it's the developer's right to develop his land. Separate that from this issue and focus on what you want to do and whether or not you want to subject the township to a waste treatment plant because of the law. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong. So anyways, please think.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else wants to talk? All right. So now we can
Deliberate.
deliberate. Do you have any more questions? Oh, you want to speak?
I just want to ask a question.
You got to come up here. So speaking and asking a question is the same thing. So if you have a question, come to the podium.
Okay, my name's Bill Gogol. I live at the corner of Napier and North Territorial. I've been there 21 years. There's some other families from our subdivision here also. The question I have is, where is the developer? Why isn't he here tonight? That's the first thing I'm curious about. But the most important thing is the developer is here to make money. Profit is not a dirty word. He's in business to make money. If he puts the water treatment plant on Godfredson, which I'm in total agreement with that, he's going to devalue the opportunity to make money because people aren't going to buy houses by a water treatment plant. They're not going to. People don't do that. I wouldn't have bought my house 20 years ago at that corner. My backyard is completely empty. It's a beautiful piece of property, which I knew at some point would be developed. But a water treatment plant, and I know that, property values are an issue for all of us, and I know that's not something that's an issue to talk about right now in the law with the state of Michigan. However, it is going to grossly affect everybody. And a water treatment plant for the city of Salem should be closer to the infrastructure or the middle of Salem Township. My family owns property at 7 and Curry in Salem Township. There is so much empty property in Salem. There's so many other alternatives to put it in there. The pipeline that the senator said is probably the best option, and I would urge you guys to push for the pipeline. However, make sure that they can't fall back on the treatment plant. But I would really be curious as to what the developer has to say, because I've watched that for 20 years. Houses get knocked down, things get cleared out, and it's empty. I watched the water pumping station built at the corner of Napier and Ann Arbor Road. All the fire hydrants put down. It doesn't need to be put at M14 in Napier by all these families. It should be further west where there's empty property, and then let the developer sell his homes with the water treatment plant there, and that way people know what they're buying. They know what they're getting themselves into. Thanks.
Are you at Andover Lake, sir?
Susan Bondi, from Plymouth Concerned Citizens and so forth. I've lived here over 50 years.
Could you pull the mic down closer to you? Pull the mic
Okay,
down.
no problem. Actually, if I just speak up, you can all hear me. I'm very much against this water treatment plant and very disappointed that Eagle would even consider it. If they want to give them a water treatment plant, put it in a better location where you're not ruining one community to satisfy the needs of another community or another developer. Number two, I'm not really in favor of this pipeline because I don't think it's well defined as to, we actually had our attorney look at the agreement. I mean, I think there are so many holes in that agreement that we're basically, we're rolling the dice here. Yeah, essentially, they're gonna do a pipeline and maybe it's 12, maybe it's 18 inches, And, oh, if it needs maintaining, oh, well, they'll take care of that. There's too much that's not well-defined in that agreement. So, yeah, something needs to be done before you really make, do any signing on anything, as far as I'm concerned.
Anyone else? No? All right, so now the board can continue asking questions. We have the experts here. We have 2 motions to vote on tonight. It's 9 o'clock. Not that I'm ready to go home, but
So you're ready for a motion?
okay, so you want to make a motion on the first one.
Okay, motion to adopt resolution 2025-05-27-43, opposing the construction of a Salem Township Urban Services District, USD, wastewater treatment facility.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's moved by Stewart, second by Grove. This will require a roll call vote. Clerk Borba, yes. Supervisor Kermy,
Yes?
Trustee Buckley,
Yes.
Trustee Grove,
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes?
Trustee Clinton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So that was the easy one.
So,
Are we done?
Are you done? So your recommendation, Mark, is to do nothing on this one? Is that what you're saying? Or you don't know?
No, I'm sorry, I was just.
Oh, you were just
I was
thinking
telling
funny.
Chuck, it was, turns out it wasn't funny.
so to kind of reiterate, some of the things I said before was I would have a couple concerns with this resolution in the form that it is in. One being is that there are too many outs that would enable them to build the wastewater treatment plant. So if they can't have it both ways. If they're asking for the pipeline, then we need to have assurances that it will be a pipeline and it will not be a wastewater treatment plant. I don't know how to do that.
But we'll try to work through that tonight.
Yeah. My second concern is maybe I'll make a motion following this, but I think we should let Canton vote first because I want to know what Canton gets out of the deal. For example, one of the things that concerns some of our residents on the west side of the township is there's not going to be any real transition from housing. It'll go from the country club village to high-density housing across the street, and there's concerns about that. I don't know that we have any leverage or ability to influence that, but my point being is that if Canton if
they get some money,
yeah, then so should we. So, and the third point being, there's been some discussion and some of the comments have indicated that there's too much ambiguity in the definition of what is going to be installed. And
you mean pipeline related?
Pipeline. Can we build in conditions that would assure us that it will be designed to the capacity that would support the urban service district and nothing else, no greater size. And those are all things that if we can put conditions, I mean, Kevin, you probably got to think about this, but can we put conditions that will protect our residents? Because I am really concerned about these off-ramps that this could all be for naught. We could be sitting here a year from now and they're building a wastewater treatment plant because they had too many outs. And if I'm going to vote for this pipeline, I want
I want to close the door on those outs.
Mr. Supervisor, thank you. Are you done?
Yeah.
I'm not anti-development, and I'm not a gambler. I don't gamble. I work too hard for my money, so I don't gamble. Now, I have, when it gets to be $500 million on the lottery, I've been known to spend $1 or $2 on that. But I'm not a gambler. I don't want to gamble with your lives. I don't want to gamble with mine. I don't want to gamble with your property values. That's why I think it's important to understand that it's really strange that he's willing to issue this permit, but hasn't done all the studies necessary, and hasn't even talked to Wayne County. And that this is impacting Wayne County for a project that's going on in Salem Township. Remember, that's what's happening, is we're going to, no matter what's going on, they're gonna dig up our property to put a sewer line in, or they're gonna have all this treated water going down through our areas. Like I said, I'm not a gambler, but here's what I think. I think we say no on it. I think if they issue the permit, we sue. There's an appeal process, and we can even go to court. Notice Superior Township took them to court and won. And the developer spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, in Salem Township, and they lost. Now, I know politics pretty well. I've been involved in it. Our court system at the highest level is run by the Democrat Party. And they are very, very environmentally conscious. And I think that if we sue, I think we'll win. Because look at what's going to happen. You'll have the sewer plant right on our border. You're going to end up having not only the smell and the sight of it, and all the effluent going into the creek, but you're going to have what I consider severe diminution of value in the properties in Plymouth Township. Matter of fact, I think it will even affect their ability to sell their properties with a sewer plant right next door. So I think because of the environmental issues, talk about environmental justice, I believe that we would win that lawsuit, that we could stop them from putting that kind of plant there for those reasons. Severe diminution of value of all the property around there, which, as that woman had said, you're going to affect the tax base here too, but you're affecting people's real lives. Do you know the #1 way that people get wealth in America is really through the value of their homes? That's usually their #1 investment. And I don't think there's a court out there that would allow that kind of severe diminution of value for what is probably up to 2 miles coming from Napier, or maybe over to Beck, and from 5 Mile down to Joy, to cause severe diminution of value? I don't think it's likely. Now, again, that's my opinion. And I base that on 73 years life of experience, being a legislator, being a city commissioner in the city of Plymouth, being here, being a realtor for 35 years. I'm not a realtor now, but I'm telling you, this is set up for a win. But that's my opinion. And again, I don't like that. My gun's being put to my head and say, if you don't do this, I think it was Stalin that said, hey, you show the public, you show the people death, they'll take dismemberment. And so I don't like that being done to me, and I don't like it being done to the public here. But quite frankly, I think we would win this lawsuit.
Jerry, I'd be curious, like what though is the net effect that we're looking for? Just to stop the development altogether, to get concessions from this?
I don't care about
I mean, I appreciate all that, but I still don't understand what the net effect is.
Development goes on everywhere else. You go down to other townships, they have, now they granted them this PUD. Now, I don't know how long it's in effect for. I don't know if it's finalized yet. There may be other things they may have to do legislatively if they get this to move forward in one way or the other. I don't know. I haven't been following that portion of it very close. But development is not stopped in Salem Township.
No, but are we looking to delay? To find these other alternatives that were presented? Or not presented, but suggested?
They could build on that property on 2-acre lots. and put in the septic fields. They've got water, they have water and then have septic fields. So I'm not stopping them from doing anything. What I'm stopping them from doing is harming us. And it's a Washtenaw problem. Let Washtenaw take care of it. And I don't want a gun put to my head in that fashion, and I'm not going to be threatened with death only for me to take dismemberment. I'm not going to do it.
So what you're saying, Jerry, is a court would say, award us, would put an injunction in place, even though we rejected the fix, which was a sewage treatment plant. Wouldn't a reasonable judge say, well, why did you pick this box? You inflicted it upon yourself by,
that's not true.
by not accepting a sewage pipeline.
The state is issuing the permit. So we can go to court to stop that issue. There's an appeal process, and again, you can go to court. And I think if I get to the Supreme Court, I win hands down. And it's irrelevant.
That's an awfully
It's irrelevant.
bold prediction.
It's irrelevant that there's another option. That other option requires me to do something also that I may or may not want
What
to
other
do.
option? A pipeline requires you to do what?
It requires me to let them do that.
For what?
They
The
can-
pipeline?
No, well, yeah, they can run the pipeline around Superior Township going down to Yucca, go through Ann Arbor, go through Northfield Township, go a different direction. You don't have to come through us. This is a Washtenaw County problem, and they are asking us to take the burden of that.
Well, two communities in
What's the
Wayne.
harm? What would be the harm imposed on us if they had if you say routed a different way, they're still gonna end up in the same place with a pipeline?
You mean in Ypsilanti?
Yeah.
Yeah, let them go that way. But you're threatening me. I'm going to do this to you if you don't do X.
So is it ego or is it logic
No,
you're
no,
worried about?
it's-
You don't like to be threatened.
I don't, do you?
Well,
What if your neighbor says? I'm
sometime when
gonna
you
do-
walk down the
if you-
street, you get threatened by bad guys.
That's why I carry a gun. And so, I don't like being threatened, because I think that's what's going on. And I think environmental justice would rule on our side.
I would play devil's advocate and say that Plymouth Township has had 10 years to try to negotiate some middle ground and did not take advantage of that over that period of time, and now we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
But again, why isn't the developer here?
Well, that's a good question.
You ask that question all the time, Mr. Supervisor. Where's the developer? Where's this person? Where are they at? Who's speaking on their behalf?
Nobody.
Well, isn't Salem Township speaking on their behalf?
Yeah, but they're working for the
And
developer.
they don't have enough money left to pay for this pipeline anyway, so the developer's gonna have to spend some of their money.
I just don't like being pressured like that.
Do you want to add something into this resolution that says some guarantee that no sewage treatment plant would be built if you vote for a pipeline? Is that possible?
Well, we
Kevin.
just oppose it. I don't see how that would be any
All right.
different unless we pass
No,
an
it-
ordinance, which is what Superior Township did.
We're saying an approval that is conditional, contingent on, how do we even structure that?
I think it should be more fitted towards what you said about appealing.
You see, because in my opinion, we can appeal and fight it. If you lose, then let them have the sewer line. But I like to go that process, not because I'm a gambler, but because I think a court would rule in our favor.
I don't know.
I think I like the other way around.
Hold on, what's the other way around?
To approve with the contingency on appeal to the water treatment facility.
I mean, contingency to block it completely, right?
No, they
I'd rather
can
have them
permit it,
block
but
it.
then appeal it.
How about we permit it in Salem Town, on the condition that Salem Township would agree to withdraw its application for the wastewater treatment plant?
Let's hear that would be a great way if it works, to block it
But it's already issued.
Well, no, it's not issued. Look, please come to the podium, Phil.
Ed,
I know it's not given to the developer, but it's ready.
No, it's not
Yeah,
issued.
the wastewater treatment plant discharge permit is not issued.
So if we structured a motion that
Wait,
said,
wait.
Hold,
Phil.
don't go away. If we structured a motion that said that we would approve the pipeline, it's a little bit redundant, in exchange for withdrawing the permit
The application.
or with the application. And not, or is it not issuing the permit? Although you've said in the letters that
We
they.
can't put a condition on Eagle, but we could put a condition on Salem Township.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, their ability to withdraw the permit is up to them, but if they withdraw the permit, then we won't act on it. I mean, it's up to them. I mean, it's up to them considering everything else that's going on. I mean,
So we have
They're
a
gonna have to
stipulation on the table
approve in
from
their
the,
own
from the township attorney, Ed
Still
Plago,
voted
to
here.
withdraw any application regarding a sewage treatment plant. And we have your recommendation to go ahead with the pipeline.
Their attorneys here.
we
We're
want,
putting that on the record, is that right?
We haven't asked our attorney.
Salem Township will agree that if Plymouth Township grants consent to run the pipeline that we need down to Yucca, that Salem Township will make, you can make that conditional upon
Shall.
Salem Township withdrawing the permit for the wastewater treatment plant, yes.
Hold on, okay.
I don't think they can hold another board.
No, it's a conditional approval.
So we make a conditional approval. Kevin, weigh in on it. Don't go away, Mr. Plato.
It would be a conditional consent.
Conditional consent.
You got some words that you can put in there? I mean, think about, I mean, we can pause and work on words. You can talk while he's wording.
I haven't said anything. I want to say from the very beginning of time, I have felt tremendous pressure from Eagle, the state of Michigan, to issue a permit and basically hold a gun to our heads that says, you either do this or we're going to issue the permit. And to me, that is pitting one community against another. I believe Eagle represents everyone in the state, not just one township. And I think that we as communities can work well together. So I like the idea of taking the wastewater treatment plant out of the picture and us working to do the pipeline. And if they withdraw the wastewater treatment plant, that's all we really need to worry about, correct?
Well, if that's the real reason that people are opposed to it versus no development.
Yeah, well, I don't have an issue with development. My concern is I don't like it, the either or, either you're going to do this or we're going to do that. And I don't blame Salem Township for that. I don't blame anyone. This is the state of Michigan.
Well, if I understand correctly, the state of Michigan did not have to withhold the permit. They did it because they wanted the environmental, regional, optimum solution, a pipeline. So they did this as a gesture. They're not required to do it, but let's hear what the real truth is. This is my speculation.
But we were threatened.
Well, we were threatened. No, you wouldn't have been threatened if they just issued it.
no, the decision is yours, and I don't mean it to sound like any kind of bullying or threat. It certainly is your decision, but we held that permit to try to find a better solution than a wastewater treatment plant, exactly what the supervisor said.
And Salem Township requested them to hold the permit while we explored this other option.
Yeah, so that's the truth.
Therefore, upon condition precedent of the withdrawal and the commitment to not pursue a permit for the sewage treatment plant, Plymouth Township gives its consent to the pipeline.
So just the only concern is what happens, so we haven't done anything yet in Canton. What happens in 2 weeks if we said yes and Canton came back and said no?
It nullifies our.
It would nullify it, so,
Yeah, it'll be nullified, and
Have
we,
to
we gave
revote.
it the best shot.
yeah.
And to protect our community from a sewage treatment plant. Although I am a gambler, and I think Canton Township wants this sewage treatment plant, not sewage, the pipeline, because they have some issues that, and I know Van Buren wants it.
Yeah, but Canton's asking for $4 million worth of concessions, and they.
Or more.
And they had indicated in the media that they were gonna continue to pursue that. Wasn't that
So that's
true
why
or
I think
not?
it's wise that we wait till they vote and then we can vote afterwards with new wording that has been publicized in the public for them to comment on by our attorney.
Well, I think maybe, so there's a couple things that have to happen because the Salem Township Board is gonna need to vote on that, right? Mr. Plato?
Yes.
Vote on what, the,
On the
Pipeline.
agreement to
well,
withdraw
Salem
the.
Township has never wanted a wastewater treatment plant, so that's not a problem. And could I suggest to Mr. Bennett, because we've worked together before, the change to the resolution can be very simple, that Salem Township will grant, that Plymouth Township will grant consent for the pipeline conditional upon Salem Township withdrawing the permit for the wastewater treatment plant. Can be as simple as that.
And agreeing not reapply for a period of time. Well,
Can't do forever.
forever is violates, what is that, the rule against perpetuities?
Yeah, yes.
Hold on.
Everybody needs water, we all know that. So we all know we need sewage, but if they don't want it, and we don't want it, I'm confused.
That's why they're giving you an alternative, is the pipe.
Excuse me, why we want the pipeline?
They put in for the application to get the sewage treatment plant. They didn't have to do that. They negotiated in good faith to come up with the sewer and work with the community then. That again is a threat to blackmail.
Yeah, it just
Now,
proves the threat.
For Sandy's comment, you got Eagle there precipitating all this. Put all you guys in the bad positions. Now, if you remember, there's some nonsense over there. If you remember, Board Supervisor, if you remember, we had to do that because of the blockage from Plymouth Township and Superior Township, that we had no alternatives. So that's why we went with the application to apply for it, because you had the developer breathing down our necks, and we're saying, what's the alternative? So that was our alternative. And then we had, first they had a public hearing, I believe the people spoke, and we wanted to find an alternative way, and that's what we
They held
did.
a gun to our head.
Right,
After they
so,
held a gun to our head.
you talk about Washington County, but, Wayne County is interfering with us. You passed 2 ballot resolutions opposing the line to go through Superior Township. Why would you do that? You're Wayne County. But that's what you did, downstream problem. That's what I'm saying. We were gonna put a sewer line to Superior, but they passed resolutions here to block the sewer going through Superior Township. Why were you even involved? So we're at this position now. We do not want a wastewater treatment plant. We have to have an alternative. And that's all we're trying to do.
All right,
Well, hopefully.
hold on, we're gonna make a motion.
It
Hold
has
on.
to be on the microphone. That's-
Well, see, I don't know how you're gonna manage that, because you're going to have, they're having the meeting on June 10. So that, we have a meeting on the same day, so what are we gonna be, on our radio, on our phones, saying, did you pass? It's gonna be chicken and egg kind of thing?
No, the 24th of June,
So you wanna delay it till June 24?
or whenever our next meeting is
It
after
would be,
that.
well, we have a June 10 meeting and a June 24. I'd rather not delay, I'd rather vote on something tonight, and that you can put all the contingencies you want in there.
We got enough attorneys, we can figure out something to do tonight.
But
Van Buren wants
This
this
has gotta be our meeting if we're gonna figure this out.
sewer,
have to go
sewer
to the
line.
mic.
What this is gonna
The supervisor,
Okay, hold on, I'll answer that one question that was shouted out. Van Buren Township told me they were overwhelmingly in support of this.
Smart people.
Well, it's only upside to them and no downside.
Mr. Supervisor, can I propose that we will issue or provide the same resolution to Canton Township that we're apparently in agreement on tonight, that if Plymouth and Canton grant permission for us to run the sewer line, in both resolutions, we will withdraw, make that conditional upon the withdrawal of the permit for the wastewater treatment plant.
And you give us what you give them.
We told them they're not gonna get anything.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Yeah, that's the second, that's
Well,
the
you can
second
add,
question.
look, Kevin, we could add some type of, I don't know the
What I
right
would
word,
propose.
reciprocity clause or something in here that we get some prorated
Yes.
version of whatever deal Canton is going to get. So we're adding another moving part, but
That's tricky.
it's a tricky part. But I think we need to go away tonight with something on a pipeline, because I'm concerned that, well, we haven't had a good reputation of playing guts ball with developers. So I don't want to lose the battle because of some technicality. And I'm not a smart enough lawyer to word this so that we have the flexibility to sync with Canton. And as far as the withdrawing the application, Canton has said they're going to do that, or Eagle said they wouldn't issue the permit if the three communities agreed. So I'm more concerned about this reciprocity proration.
I'm concerned about the permit because of the off-ramps.
Okay, all right, so let's plug both holes for now and see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
So even if that pipeline costs $100 million, that's the only option if all three communities agree to it.
Well, if it's $100 million, they probably won't do the development.
But I'm just
That would be
saying,
okay too.
No, but they may do the wastewater treatment.
Not if we,
if we're gonna, then we don't want to get, if we agree to allow this, then we don't want to be sitting here a year from now saying, well, the pipeline wasn't viable, so.
So then we file a lawsuit.
Hold your noses.
Well, then you file a lawsuit after that.
So a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Well, as I've indicated, Salem Township does not want a wastewater treatment plant either. We don't want the expense, we don't want to maintain it. So I think it's a reasonable resolution and solution to this problem to say that Plymouth Township grants consent conditional upon Salem Township withdrawing their request for a permit for the wastewater treatment plant.
No reapplication, right?
I don't know.
Well, unless Canton Township says no, then again, we're back to no choice but a wastewater treatment plant. But I don't foresee Canton Township's going to say no based on what they told us.
All right, Kevin, we have some words. Hold on.
Can you come to the microphone, ma'am?
Public comments are over. This is our deliberation.
Okay,
It all
so
matters, so.
let's have some quiet so that the attorneys can think a little bit here and we can develop some plan to go away with a resolution that addresses, I hope, all of the things. It'll have some moving parts, so I don't even know whether we can make it bulletproof, but
I have some proposed language that would be inserted into the, now therefore be it resolved that.
Hold
I
on,
could
let's
just
go to
add
the-
this to the end.
so is this
So
page
this last
67? No, 57?
59.
59, okay. Now therefore, go ahead, I'm sorry. Now on.
Add this to the back end of that, provided further that such consent is conditioned upon Salem Charter Township revoking in total its NPDES discharge permit application with Eagle, and that such consent is effective only upon Salem Charter Township's revocation of such permit application.
So hold on, this is our meeting for
That's why I
now.
choose the word revoke rather than withdraw.
Yeah.
So what about the Canton reciprocity clause?
I have this provided further that such consent is conditioned upon Salem Charter Township providing substantially the same benefits as Salem Township provides Canton Charter Township, or pardon, Salem Charter Township provides Plymouth Charter Township as Salem Charter Township provides to Canton Charter Township.
So we'd have to make we wouldn't get, we'd have to be proportional or prorated. Because there's no way that we're gonna get $4 to $6 million for a smaller.
Prorated?
I don't know what the right legal word is.
How do you prorate?
I don't know.
I also, it's tangible and intangible benefits. We got two really good lawyers. Maybe we should send them away to work this out until the next
The
meeting.
only caveat, I hate to throw it out there, which Kevin's doing his diligent drafting here, is that if
you don't like it.
Canton Township denies the sewer line, then we're back to square one, we have to go back to a wastewater treatment plant.
Right, so this
Understood.
becomes all moot.
Yeah.
If
Correct.
Canton Township says no.
Yeah, that's
So-
understood.
So that's why having this in place, this will become moot if one of the other two communities say no, or if Salem Township, or if Canton Township gets something, we'll get something, but we'll see. We may, it's possible we may have to be back here, but I hope not. I want to send the message that a pipeline is the best alternative, and we want to go that way. Plymouth Township is hardly touched by this pipeline, thank goodness. It's possible if the engineers do more work, they may jump over to the other side and be on the Canton side. But with the other high-pressure water lines that are, I think they're Stantec, is that true that they're water lines or on the south side of Canton, south side of Ann Arbor Road in Canton Township? Water lines, okay.
And you can't have the
So
water and sewer lines next to each other.
So who issues the permit? If we approve this resolution and it's got a contingency in it, ultimately, do we issue a permit or does the county?
No.
So how do
permit-
we,
Eagle.
The
So
permits will come from
Eagle
Eagle.
issues the permit once the engineering is completed? Or how does that work?
Yeah, we receive complete plans and specifications with the basis and design service area. And we go through the Part 41 process, which is
Come to the microphone.
based on 10 state standards. And then we issue a permit if it meets and protects public health and the environment. So there's a process that's in place. The county looks at it, then we look at it. We use 10 state standards, our guidance to protect public health and the environment. And then we issue what's called a Part 41 permit. Different kind of permit than the discharge permit, but it's a permit.
How many months does it typically take after you have a design for a pipeline?
It will take no more than 150 days, but usually a lot faster than that.
150 days, all right.
But usually faster.
So it'd be 6 months nominally.
I mean, but once we get the plans and specifications, our typical review time is like 30 to 45 days. We've made a commitment in our district office that if we get these plans and specifications for the pipeline, that it will become one of our priorities.
And Wayne County says it's one of their priorities also, in the last sentence of the letter.
Counselor,
From Evans.
Counselor, if I may,
Which one?
this one right here. the
Plato?
one- Yeah, the good-looking one.
Wait a second, poor Kevin.
No, a question for you, and it's kind of all hypothetical, but it kind of helps me out a little bit. Let's say everyone says no to the pipeline. Then you go to, they issue a permit, we go to court and we win. That you can't do one. Then, does that make your problem with the developer go away because it's substantially impossible?
Well,
Say that
talking
again.
about-
Go.
Okay,
We're talking about such
if
a,
something is substantially impossible to complete, usually you're not held by law to do something if you can't do it, if it's impossible, you know? And so, right now, you say that you're under pressure by the developer to do this. But if we say no to the pipeline, Kent says no to pipeline, and then you go to get a permit issued, and then we take you to court and we win, thereby it becomes impossible, and the developer has no recourse against you.
You're talking about, I think, extreme hypotheticals. I don't think any judge in his right mind would say you had a choice between a pipeline and a wastewater treatment plant, and you said no to both.
I'm talking about something totally different.
Quiet, please.
I'm talking about your developer, because you guys say, hey, listen, we've got this developer who's putting all this pressure on us to do this, but if we say no, and then we get a court to say no to that, it relieves your problem with the developer, because then it's impossible. And if something's impossible, you're not held legally. They can't sue. In other words, the developer won't be able to sue you.
Makes my
I
head
don't know
hurt.
why the developer wouldn't be able to sue us, but,
Well, he may, but I don't think he'd prevail.
well, I think,
Wait,
It's not open discussion.
no, we're done with the discussion. So now the lawyers are lawyering it. They're doing what they get paid for.
I would just
Kevin-
suggest, because we're making the approval of the pipeline conditional upon the withdrawal of the wastewater treatment plant permit, that we also will need to make the withdrawal of the wastewater treatment plant permit conditional upon Canton Township approving the pipeline.
Right.
Yep, I got it, okay.
And then on the equal compensation discussion, does that include
Fair
if the
value or
developer makes a contribution? Or is that only if Salem
To
Township?
be honest, I don't,
No, they could sell municipal bonds and fund the project. In fact, if the developer's smart, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
Municipal bonds. Because interest rates are much lower and there's a big pool of money there. So, language, what are we going to use as the
You guys are good lawyers, but I'm concerned about making this up on the fly without us having.
Well, if it turns out it's not right, you redo it, but let's make a best effort.
I think we wait till the 10th.
So Kevin's working on some words. Let's take a few minutes of quiet. Let's take a few minutes. Patience sometimes will get you the win. So let's see if we can work this out instead of quick, get it done. It's like when kids do their homework.
It's a law school exam, Kevin, and here's your question.
Far away from that. Okay, for the Canton Township one, how about something like this? Provided further that such consent is conditioned upon Salem Township providing substantially the same tangible and intangible proportional benefits as Salem Township provides, Plymouth Township and Salem Charter Township provides to Canton Charter Township.
Ed, I'd read that one more time so Ed can hear it, or not hear it, comprehend it.
A lot of stuff in here.
There's a lot of
Take your
things.
time. We've dedicated 3 hours already.
As I'm thinking through this, we did, because Canton Township did want us to do a lot and do, several $1 million in improvements. We told them we can't. We said what we can do, though, is when we lay the pipeline through, if Canton Township wants to lay their own pipeline next to it, they can do that. So to the extent that's a benefit we're providing to them that we're not providing to Plymouth.
Yeah, so that would be easy to meet that, because we don't need that benefit.
Right.
So if that's all you provide Canton, I
don't
think
want
we
to
would
be
be
in
happy.
violation of the resolution.
Pardon?
I don't want to be in violation of the resolution because we're not providing equal benefits.
Well, he said proportional.
Is there not, though, if you have to dig a wider trench, is that not an expense and a value that would be provided to Canton? I mean, if you hold, digging a hole anyway and somebody else wants to put another pipe in it and it doesn't cost you anything, that's one thing. But if they're saying you're digging the trench this wide, but now you need to make it this wide so we can put our pipe in it too.
Now, it wouldn't be a wider trench. It would be the same trench. If they want to lay a pipe next to our pipe, they're welcome to do that, to alleviate their flooding problem.
Well, they listed specifically what they wanted their concessions to be. It's not
Right.
really hypothetical.
They're probably
Which they
adding
were
more.
said, they were
Which they
told no, but they weren't,
told
but it
no.
doesn't mean that the developer wouldn't come forward with money and pay for that. You just said no because you can't use grant money for it, it's against the law. You didn't say no, and Showstack didn't say, I won't contribute.
Well, that negotiation has to be done with Salem Township. So let's hear some words. I hope we can vote on this so that we have something in hand. And then if we ever have to come back, we can always redo it. But
How can we redo it?
you can withdraw it. You can withdraw in another meeting, you can yes, you can. You can make a motion,
A new resolution.
a new resolution.
Have a look over your shoulder.
I don't know. I know
All right, let's let them work it out.
further, however.
Pardon?
Is he gonna pass us something to read the resolution
He's gonna read it out loud.
on our behalf?
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know if you can do that, can you?
Yeah, we've done that. We do that all the
You
time.
can do a verbal amendment to the resolution.
Who's? Van Buren.
Down
Van
south.
Buren wants some money, is that what you're trying to say? No.
I think once. Because they want to put something in the hole, pipe.
Okay.
And, they have a industrial area, I think, that they want to develop that right now they can't develop.
So a lot of people want to stuff things in these holes.
Exactly.
Where's the big with Sandy?
What can we do?
Brian,
He's got it off. He had it off.
Carol,
Good catch.
where's the pig with Sandy? Carol, Brian. Kevin Bennett and I are both lawyers, and we gotta wear the uniform.
You're in supervisor is McNamara.
Suit, a
So
white shirt and
he's
tie.
McNamara.
That's what I'll be wearing, June 5th.
Naming of the terminal.
It's the very last line of that.
Yeah.
They're back on the first part, the very last line of the resolution.
He's a Democrat. Ben Burns tends to be Democratic.
He's the one that Mike Duggan was his protege. He's the one that brought Mike Duggan on.
You said Duggan was your roommate?
His younger brother.
Oh, his brother.
I like your point about them putting the wastewater treatment plant somewhere else.
Well, this is all done for this reason.
What would happen, because
I got 2 hours
Joe
of sleep
Stack-
last night. Where you going? I'm going to pick my wife up at the airport.
how did they get the right to be able to develop and,
Well, they went to them.
Oh, I can go to.
And then they created a PUD, just like we do a PUD.
okay.
So I don't even know if their PUD is still in
As long as they have water.
This was done so long time ago.
What are you,
They may
Camel?
not, they may need to redo it. Now, when I was young, in a year, you gotta redo
People hate
it.
it to travel with me.
It's probably, they're probably to go back after this and redo it.
Yeah.
So, gonna have the
Follow
motion.
me on
It's not
Facebook.
gonna be
Concerned
this.
about, because the motion's
Yeah, yeah.
Are you a
The
Canton
motion's
resident?
part of that, but it's,
Yeah.
it's not all of it.
She said that Canton already, has already said.
So you're making
Well, you
in
just
their
use, the
paper
motion
that
is
they're
just to
voting.
approve the resolution.
Yeah, I know they want,
We
they
want
just
it in
want
the
some
resolution.
money.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They want us.
And so just say as amended.
As amended in the resolution.
Yes.
Okay, as amended in the resolution.
It's called The Focus. It's a newsletter. Yeah. Is it hard copy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got one mailed to my house.
Okay, so hard copy. All right, are we ready?
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
5 more minutes?
No. 5 minutes and I make the motion to adjourn.
No, you can't do that. We've come this far. All right, what do we have, Kevin? Quiet, everybody.
Shut them up.
All right, ready? Go ahead.
The resolution that's included in the board packet will be amended on page 59.
59.
And then now therefore be it resolved that the following will be added to the end of that paragraph.
After the word schedule.
Yes.
I think you mean page 57.
No,
No.
59.
We're gonna amend the resolution.
Oh, okay.
And this will be added to the end of that paragraph. Provided further that such consent is conditioned upon Salem Charter Township revoking its NPDES discharge permit application with Eagle, and that such consent is effective only upon Salem Charter's Township's revocation of such permit application. And then Mr. Plato wanted this added in there. Salem Township's revocation of the WWTP application is conditional upon Canton Township approving consent for a pipeline through Canton Township. And then the next sentence will be, provided further that such consent is conditioned upon Salem Township providing the option to Plymouth Township to invoke substantially the same tangible, intangible, and legal proportional benefits to Plymouth Charter Township as Salem Charter Township provides to Canton Charter Township.
All right, do we need, so the tangible benefits or intangible benefits, that will be my job to negotiate? Or we don't need to say
If they provide
anything?
any, what, they may not
What-
provide any.
It's going to be providing, they will provide the option that that they're going to provide to Canton Township, which is set forth on page 75 of the board packet.
And Supervisor Gary Whitaker of Salem Township swears he's not going to offer Canton Township one more penny.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
So don't confuse, okay. So,
The whole thing's moved. That
Hold on.
whole paragraph's moved.
hold on, we've got something,
I'm
somebody
in
to say.
agreement with the language that Mr. Bennett has read. The only correction would be that Salem Township is not a charter township, it's a general.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. They only
Strike
have,
the word charter.
you have 5 board members, right?
Pardon?
You have 5 board members? You have 7, even though you're a general law?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. All right.
Second to the motion.
Okay,
wait.
no. Here, my, parliamentary inquiry. So what we're going to do then, or whoever, is going to read the motion that's right here, and then just state as amended in the resolution.
As amended to include the language that the township attorney read into the record.
As amended.
Okay, motion to adopt resolution number 2025-05-27-44, granting consent to Salem Township pursuant to MCL 24-247.183, to construct and maintain a sewer line within the public right-of-way through the portion of the Township of Plymouth to connect to the treatment plant of the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority, YCUA, in Ypsilanti, Michigan, provided, however, that such consent is contingent upon the Charter Township of Plymouth approving the operation and maintenance plan and schedule. Further,
As,
No, just have him say as, just repeat, have him repeat.
as amended.
As amended, but to include the language read into the record by the township attorney.
Second.
Wait, John has to say.
John has to say those words. that's
Oh,
why
I'm
we-
sorry.
Yeah. Just repeat after him.
As amended by the township attorney and read into the record.
Hang on to that piece of paper. We're going to have to really look at it.
Okay, this requires a roll call vote.
Type it up and email it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Take a picture of it in case you lose it.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
trustee Grove,
Yes.
trustee Buckley,
Yes.
supervisor Kermy,
Yes.
trustee Clinton,
Yes.
trustee, treasurer Dorchevitz,
Yes.
clerk Borba, no.
Oh, good.
The motion carries.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So we're done with our items. Does anyone else have any short comments from the audience? Please make them short. You got to come to the podium, and then we're going to, the
And then we'll do
board,
ours.
then the board will give
Okay.
comments.
Okay.
My comment is to the board. You guys have mics in front of you?
Yes, we do.
Because it was very, like when Bob was talking, he was kind of sitting back in his chair. It was hard, not hard to hear him, but it would have been better if you were closer to your mic. So that
Okay,
was just
sorry
my
about
comment.
that.
Just not, I mean, just to everybody. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, the audio system in this room leaves something to be desired.
Look at a megaphone.
Well, do you have a hard time hearing me? Well, the mic wasn't on at the podium for a lot of the comments, correct?
No, just for a few.
A few?
Just what we started when someone was talking.
Yeah, in the future, if you can't hear me, tell me while I'm talking. Because I don't know. It sounds to me like the mic's picking me up, but it wasn't picking me up.
All right.
Okay.
We got the message. We're going to work on the acoustics. Jerry has a quote coming for some, I think, we're going to,
Everything,
the
yeah.
tell, they should have it by now.
Pretty soon.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask that you and I and the operator of the thing, maybe go down to Van Buren where they redid everything and have a review of what they did there.
Okay, good. Yeah, we may need some engineering.
Exactly.
Acoustical engineering in this bad room. All right, Sandy, go ahead. You have a comment.
I would just like to acknowledge the loss of Steve Rapson Jr., who is a 42-year-old young man who was blessed to be the son of our retired police officer, Stephen Rapson, whose wife is Cindy, and Susan Haar, whose husband is James. And James was a retired fire lieutenant in our department. This is a profound loss for all of them, and I ask you to keep them in your thoughts and prayers during this difficult time if you are so inclined.
Thank you. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well. Anyone else with any comments?
Yep. I want to thank the representative from Eagle, Phil Argeroff. I want to thank legal counsel for Salem Township, Ed Plato, and the Honorable Supervisor of Salem Township, Gary Whitaker. I deeply appreciate and admire the delicate compromise and consent and negotiation that I have never seen more of or better of tonight from our supervisor.
Anybody else have any comments? Go ahead.
Good, okay. Just wanted to mention in an email that I sent the board earlier this week, we weren't able to deliberate on it, so I just want to quickly mention it. That in the May Township newsletter, it mentions that DIY assistance is being requested for repairs at the wooden playscape located at Plymouth Township Park. The newsletter points citizens to our website stating the project has been assessed, a work plan in place, no experience, no problem. I haven't seen who assessed the project and what their findings are. Isn't this a township asset? If so, I think it seems all well and good thinking that we're saving taxpayer money. but from a legal standpoint, according to MTA's May 2025 official publication, Catherine Mulpot, MTA staff attorney, provided township advice on page 11. Number 2, avoiding unnecessary risks, saying, provide routine inspections or review of township property, facilities, equipment, and grounds to identify potential risks, damage, replacement, or repair, and further provide professional repairs or replacement in township facilities, no DIY. Can you speak on this?
Yes. First of all, it was reviewed in detail by an expert who manages playgrounds in Canton Township. She said that the place is in very good shape. She gave us a list of things to work on. We are coordinating it. I have a consultant who's working with us. And by the way, the thing was built by DIY, as you call them, volunteers. Like most playgrounds in the Plymouth community were built by the Kiwanis Club, built 2 shelters and a
But they
toilet.
become our asset, and once they're our asset.
We're under control
and
on it,
they're
I can
under
assure
our
you.
control, we don't need to save pennies.
It's not about that. Maybe your kids would want, what we're trying about is all of the names of the donors, we need to repaint those. We're not asking
Get a
people.
professional to do that.
Oh my God, a professional, I mean, just to paint the
But you
names?
said no experience, no problem. Are you
Yeah.
talking, well, we don't know. What
No,
are the
I-
bolts? Are you tightening bolts? Are you,
We have work crews that do that.
are you
which-
cutting wood? I mean, we have kids
There may be
playing
some
on
of that,
this.
right. I can assure you, it's being done properly. We're emulating what Canton Township did several years ago.
Okay,
and
but could I just ask, why not just get a professional to come out and do it? Is it to save
Professionals-
taxpayer money?
No, it's to engage people in projects like Boy Scouts love to do stuff like that. It's all under supervision. Right now, we're working on getting posts that have to be pulled out. We're going to have our employees do that because they have to be in the same spot. To put a post in the same spot as an old one, they're difficult to take out because some of them have concrete. But I can assure you, it's under control. And I can see that social media grabbed that. It's kind of interesting how they knew exactly what you said. But it is not, we're not jeopardizing the township.
Could I just get clarification from our township attorney, Kevin Bennett?
Sorry?
Just regarding the MTA attorney is saying no DIY projects. What would be your response in terms of doing DIY on the wooden playscape?
Volunteers doing work.
I think context is the important consideration here. If it's something that requires a licensed builder or engineer to design or build, then it should not be a DIY. I agree with that.
We're doing maintenance here
Well, how do we know what the maintenance is?
because we had it
You haven't-
evaluated
I
by
know,
the
but you
Canton
haven't
expert.
provided anything.
She's a certified playground specialist. So a certified person looked at it. I'll come out, you can come out and we'll show you what we're doing. We've ordered a new slide, which costs $5,000.
Who's installing that?
We're going to install it like the volunteers did last time in our work crew, under the supervision of the people from,
That sounds
we built
scary.
it. I was there when we built it. I helped build it.
I know, I totally get that, but I think, all these years down the road, we have an opportunity to do it professionally, not run legal risk here.
Okay, believe me, we're managing it, but I will involve
It's
you.
not a funny thing. My kids play there.
Well, they play there, you know which one I'm talking about, the wood structure?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to make it better.
You're concerned about the liability to the township.
Right, and we are managing liability. That's why we're fixing it.
Literally going by what she says, no DIY. So that's end of
DIY.
my,
Okay, well, the
end
Kiwanis
of
Club.
my bringing it up.
Okay, the Kiwanis Club has built many things there over the years. They built 2 shelters and restrooms.
I understand, but now the township is doing it. Not these donated people. The township is doing it. Okay?
All right.
Random people
I've
from
got
the
your
township, not a
Well,
club
the
or
other
an
people gotta talk.
organization.
Not a club or organization, but that's a tradition in Plymouth, is that service clubs do work.
But this isn't a service club, this is a township.
No, but service clubs do work in the community. But I can assure you, we're managing the risk. In fact, we're lowering the risk by doing the maintenance. I know people before us, without doing their homework, said, just tear it down. Well, it's a beloved thing, and Canton proved that you don't need to tear it down because it's been proved sound. They use telephone poles. It's working on cosmetic stuff.
So let's acknowledge that you do have the right as a trustee to express your concerns
Yep.
and ask the questions, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Cindy,
So-
appreciate it.
But I'll have you out there and we can look at what we're doing.
Yeah, and I know you appreciate being on top of things, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Okay, good. I appreciate it. So, but occasionally DIY comes in play. Plymouth has a tradition of that, of building things by people from service clubs. So now we're gonna do a little maintenance work. Painting, things like that is very low risk. All right, one other thing is Sandy has asked for giving $25,000 in the budget. Putting that on the agenda for Bobby Pummel's salary. I went to the annual meeting. They didn't present anything, unfortunately, but they did say they had enough money to go at least to October 1, no, September 30th. So I think it's premature to be giving them money. She's not an employee, so I want to wait.
May I speak with her first and,
She was at the meeting.
I understand that, but I've talked to her since that meeting.
She
So-
changed what she reported in the meeting? Well, what Cindy reported, right? They reported that they had enough money.
No, they didn't report that they had enough
okay.
money.
Are you okay?
Well,
Are you okay?
I'm okay. We need to, yeah.
right. And, all right.
Just make it, I'll talk to you, okay?
Okay, we'll talk, okay. And then the other item is the marijuana person. I don't think he has a hold on marijuana.
We need to let him know
Let him know what?
that we are an opt-out community, and he's not really presenting, I hope he's not coming here expecting us to say, yay, yay, welcome to Plymouth
I
Township.
mean, a business pitch?
Yes,
So I will talk to him then.
okay.
So marijuana is something that we made a decision on a while back.
Right.
And I don't want to give him the impression that he has an inside track to us changing our opt-out.
I agree.
Wait a minute, I do have to correct the record. You are correct.
About what?
Bosch only had a net profit of 2.4 billion.
The revenue was 42 billion. All right, it's getting late. Does anybody have anything else to say? But thank you for coming, especially our experts that came, elected officials, whatever. I hope we work through some solution that has some durability, but time will tell. All right, motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.